East of Scotland. And we're live. Hello, hello, hello. Today it is look at that. Streaming on time, on a time that I actually like kind of maybe sometimes planned for. Because it's either noon or 2 or like 8 or 9 at night when I'm bored and I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna stream like Osu or something. Anyways, hello. Good day. Let's chat a bit before we start. We have a lot of time. I have until around 6, a little before 6. So we're gonna have plenty of time to start this game. I don't think we're gonna finish it because even then the playtime is like really long. But alas, I think it'll be fun since we have that amount of time. We can definitely get through this. So we can start the game, see what it's about, see if we want to finish it in the future. I love earbuds. They stay in my ears so well. Anyways, so yeah, I got back from my family trip earlier today. Got back around got back a while ago. Hi, Wimp Dork! Hello, nice to see you here. We're gonna play visual novel today. We're gonna play Changeling, which is one of the ones that we looked at back when I was first picking out visual novels, but I was like, it's the estimated play time was way too long for the amount of time I had to stream that night. But now I have time, so we're gonna play it, and I'm kind of excited because it looks pretty cool. But yeah, I just got back from my family trip. It was long car ride, but we're back home. I can stretch out my legs. I don't know if this is gonna stay in my ear for the whole stream. Oh well, we're trying things. Yeah, I tried streaming on the beach, on my phone. Love my ear danglies, thank you. This one's a mushroom. This one is a little yeah, it's like because it's a BTS earring. So it's probably one of their dance moves, one of their point moves, like how they dangle. Yeah, I tried doing a short beach stream, but I didn't know that you had to wait for it to fully start, and it was taking forever to start. So I ended up just putting my phone away because I was standing in the water and I was like, I don't want to keep holding this. There's nothing to look at. And I'm running out of things to say. And I wasn't even saying things to people because the stream didn't go live. But that's fine. Because now we're back and now we're streaming and now we can actually play a game. So I don't know about you. I think that might be enough talking. I think it's worth getting into this game, especially because of how long it is. And as much time as I have, I don't have all of the time. So might as well get started now. So I'm gonna go ahead and switch over to the game. I hope that worked. I'm waiting for it to show up on my... Yes, it worked. Okay, wait, no, hold on. I'm dumb. Forgot to do that. But it's fine. Gotta figure it out. Alright. And now I have my Mac over here. Because I don't have a second monitor anymore. Because it won't work. But I have the stream manager pulled up on my Mac. So I can see it from here. Anyways. Let's start. Ooh, first name. Amber. Last name. What's a good last name? Amber Brimstone? Amber Lunagen? Amber... I used to go with Azeth, but Azeth doesn't really vibe with me anymore. Let's do... Amber Lewis was kind of worked fine. The default last name, Amber Lewis. Yeah. And now the story begins, Amber Lewis. When I was little, I dreamed of being carried away to a far-off land. It was a recurring dream of flying through the air, surrounded by softly singing voices. Back then, I read book after book of old fairy tales in my grandmother's study, the kind where good children didn't always make it out of the dark swamp unscathed, and sometimes the goblins won. During the day, I would run through the forest by our house and pretend the stories were real. Every tree was a sentinel watching over me, and rustling leaves were the sweet whispers of fairies coaxing me further and further from the house. Then it all crumbled. The trees and games had to be left behind. Books were left to gather dust on shelves, and dreams were left to fade into memory. Years passed, and all that remained were the distant games and pretend play of childhood. Back then, I didn't know that real fairy tales were darker than anything I could possibly have dreamed up on my own. Chapter 1: Homecoming. We had nearly reached the new house. I was eager to get out of this cramped car and see the new place. The long road trip wasn't agreeing with me, but I couldn't complain too much. After 5 years in a city I hated, we were finally moving back to Pine Hollow, the place where I grew up. That alone was enough to keep my sanity intact during the tense trip back. Unfortunately, the reason behind the move wasn't fantastic. Grandpa was ill again, and this time was under strict orders to take it easy. Since he had to avoid stress, he needed Dad's help with his business. Of course, he didn't think so, but Grandma was adamant, get help or retire. So we were on our way back so Dad could take over, in theory anyway, not that Grandpa would let him. In any case, Dad wasn't too happy about leaving his current job or our house in the city behind, much less moving back across state lines to our previous home. I was, though. I missed Grandma and Grandpa. I missed the trees and the looming embrace of the mountains that made Pine Hollow feel enclosed and protected. I missed my best friend. What I wouldn't miss was the stifling humidity of the city, the constant smell of hot rubber and car exhaust. Not to mention the lack of stars and the way rain made everything smell like rust instead of warm earth. It wasn't all terrible. The parks were pretty, and being nearer to the water had been fun. School hadn't been awful. I was hardly the loner girl skulking in the corners. I'd had friends, and I would miss them. But Allie wasn't just a friend. She was practically family. No one in the city could compare with that. And the city had never felt like home. I smiled slightly as the scenery beyond the car windows became more and more familiar. My tiredness faded to excitement. Spencer: "This new house isn't that far from the old one, is it?" Mom: "They're only a few miles apart. This one's in a different neighborhood, though." Dad: "Lots of trees, very wooded. I think you two will really like it after we get settled in." Dad said that, but from the look on Spencer's face, I didn't think it was true. Not for him, anyway. Dad pointed to a small, forested mountain a few miles ahead. "The neighborhood is nestled right at the foot there and winds up the slope. It feels rural, but it's within walking distance of the town square." I was glad that it didn't look like much development had happened in the years we'd been gone. In fact, it didn't look like much had changed at all. So much forest! I almost forgot what it was like. Looks easy to get lost in. I gave him a sharp look and found him staring at me in that disquieting way he'd picked up over the last few years. He was already trying to start a fight about that. I quickly looked away, unwilling to give him the satisfaction. Another thing I missed was me and Spencer being close, like everyone seemed to think twins ought to be. But I didn't think that just moving back to Pine Hollow was going to fix that, though. Not with jabs like that aimed at me. Let it go already. No one is going to get lost. And I want you both to give me a word you'll be careful in the forest. I don't want to have to ban you from hiking. Ugh, and Mom was starting to. I slumped back in the seat, watching the kaleidoscope of fall colors slide past. I had expected that issue to be brought up now that we were moving back, but I hadn't expected to start getting lectured before we even reached the new house. "The retailer said there are trails, but you know that probably means animal trails, not actual hiking trails. It can be dangerous if you aren't careful. We're not little kids anymore. There are lots of coyotes here, and cougars, even bears. There is also a pretty deep ravine in the woods behind the house, from what I understand. We just want to make sure everyone stays safe. Now that we're back, we don't want—" Jeez, it's been 5 years. I couldn't entirely blame everyone for their uneasiness about the whole thing. The disappearance 5 years ago. My disappearance 5 years ago was the reason we moved in the first place. Not just the disappearance itself, though I'd been gone for more than a week, and that had definitely caused some drama. But there was the issue of how I just showed back up, and the other things that happened around that time. 5 years later, and my 5 years later, and my family was still shadowed by the repercussions of what had happened back then. Of course, I wanted them to move on. Everything back then had been my fault. Not just the drama the family had endured as a whole, but also what had happened to Spencer. Those weren't wounds that could just heal overnight. Not the emotional ones, not the physical ones, and definitely not the one inflicted on our relationship. And no amount of apologizing had ever helped. Ooh, pretty. Dad turned onto a quiet street that wound its way up into the trees. A few rooftops poked through the foliage. It was a great neighborhood that reminded me a little of where we'd lived before. The sweetness of nostalgia helped wash away some of the lingering bitterness from the previous conversation. I loved the place from the moment we turned onto the street and passed over a trickling creek that vanished into the woods. Down at the foot of the mountain, and within walking distance of the houses, was the main street of the town, filled with little shops and restaurants. But the neighborhood, hidden behind a thick wall of trees and curled around the mountainside, felt secluded and quiet. It was beautiful and perfect. Amber, go check the boxes up in your room to make sure they put the right ones there. I'll let you unpack your things first, then I want you downstairs to help in the kitchen. Spencer, same for you. Movers had already arranged most of the furniture in the house under Grandma's supervision, but the boxes with the smaller items and personal belongings still needed unpacking. Since she had to take care of Grandpa, Grandma couldn't do much more than tell them where to put the furniture and try to get the basics set up for us. We still had a ton of work to do. Mom immediately busied herself trying to hang curtains and make the house look lived in. Dad started ripping into the boxes in the family room. Spencer vanished upstairs. I left Mom in the kitchen and went to take a look at the rest of the downstairs. This house is really great. I'm glad you like it, honey. It wasn't new, but had been renovated inside. It looked modern and new, but still felt old and full of memories, and someone else's history. I love it already. My bedroom was right next to Spencer's. The only thing separating them was a small, shared bathroom. That was going to be so much fun. He tended to act like any intrusion into his personal space was a huge affront, so I had to walk on eggshells if I didn't want to fight with him. I could only begin to imagine his whining about having to share counter space with all my icky girl things, like a hairbrush and hand lotion. The horror. That aside, my room was pretty nice. It was bright and airy, and I loved seeing my things already put exactly where I'd have put them anyway. Looks like Grandma even got my bed ready. All I had to do was unpack the rest of my personal stuff. I started with my school things, pulling the tape off one box to get at what was inside. Suddenly, the door to my side of the bathroom burst open. Spencer stalked in, dropping a dusty box on my clean bedspread. He could have at least knocked. They gave me one of yours. Don't pick a fight. Just stay calm. I moved the box to the floor without saying anything. Spencer started to leave. Hang on, let me make sure I don't have any of yours. Hopefully he didn't make a habit of bursting in. Being my twin brother didn't mean he got to invade my privacy whenever he wanted. Especially since he'd have had an aneurysm if I'd slammed into his room that way. I quickly sorted through the boxes to see if any of his were lurking in my room. Sure enough, I found one with his name clearly scrawled on the top. Here, I think this has some of your clothes. I nudged the box toward him with my foot. He scowled at me before picking it up and stalking back to his room. The door on his side of the bathroom slammed shut. Yeah, you're welcome. It felt like every interaction with him was like that lately. It was worse than ever, actually. But then, he wasn't likely to forget his negative memories of Pine Hollow soon. And I was pretty sure he was just annoyed by the fact I was happy to be back. Which meant taking it out on me, of course. He'd never loved this place the way I had anyway, so he wasn't really inclined to overlook the bad memories in the first place. I sighed and continued pulling things out of boxes. Patience. Patience. It was just hard to have all this stuff stirred up again. I mean, yo, Hayes, thank you for the sub. Aye, nice to see you, man. Thank you so much. Because of the sub, you get a cookie fresh off the cookie table over there. It can be your favorite cookie, a cookie you're craving, or you can make up your own cookie. If you make up your own cookie, do let me know what it is. I'm curious to see what my watchers create. Anyway, hey, thanks for hanging out. Thank you for the sub. Hi. I mean, even if I accepted responsibility for what happened back then, I didn't think it meant I also had to sentence myself to guilt and misery forever. Not for something that had happened when I was 12, something I couldn't even remember. Ooh, a pineapple cookie. Nice. I don't think... Did my sub alert work? Just like the pizza. Bold. I can't tell if my sub alert worked or not. I left my boxes on the floor and went to peer out the window. I pressed my head against the glass, watching the trees sway slightly in the fall breeze. It was probably stupid to say I felt more complete in this town. Subs are working? Nice, thank you. At a glance, it looked like dozens of others you could find scattered through the area. It was beautiful and sunny sometimes, and others, it was really eerie. There were days when the clouds hung low over the mountains, the fog was super thick through the trees, and you could almost imagine it was haunted. The truth was that I felt I'd lost something in this place 5 years ago. Maybe I was only happy to be here because I felt that now I had the chance to get it back. I left the window and went back to unpacking before Mom started yelling at me to come join the battle of unbubble wrapping the kitchenware. In any case, I was being annoyingly sentimental. Pine Hollow was special to me, maybe, but it wasn't special in general. It was one of those little towns with more urban legends than any reasonable person could count. Hundreds of stories about creepy happenings in the woods, and for every one of them, no matter how unlikely, there were dozens of people willing to believe it. That's probably why people were so quick to leap on the oddities of my disappearances. They weren't really even that odd, at least I didn't think so. The rational public wrote them off as strange, but explainable. I got lost, then unlost. Big deal. Though, to be fair, the first time it happened, I was 9. And when I got unlost, I was also unhurt, even after 10 days in the woods alone. It was definitely lucky I got home safely. It wasn't supernatural, not like some people apparently insisted. It was just the amnesia that caught people off guard, I think. I couldn't remember a thing that happened while I was missing. I still couldn't. But psychogenic amnesia was a thing. What kid would want to remember being terrified in the woods for a week and a half? Not me, clearly. I started filling my closet with clothes and carefully lined up my shoes and boots. I should totally get a new pair to celebrate being home. I left the closet and began arranging my study things on the desk. We'd be starting back to school on Monday, after an inevitably busy weekend. The same private school we'd gone to before we left. That was the only thing I had mixed feelings about. There had been such a fuss about my last disappearance, the one when I was 12. That one had been the real catalyst for everything. That had been when everything just broke. I'd been missing for nearly 2 full weeks. The newspapers were running dramatic and hopeless stories. There was speculation about whether I was a runaway or if it was a ploy for attention. After all, it had happened to me before. There were search parties out every day looking for any sign of me. My parents were heartbroken. Again. Spencer was out with a search party one evening and got separated from them. They heard his scream and feared the worst, but he ran out of the woods a short time later in hysterics, clutching at one of his eyes. Then I walked out after him in a daze, but unharmed. They never found anything wrong with his eye. He lost the vision in it, but no one knew the reason. He was saying a lot of crazy things at the time. No one knew if he'd hit his head or had maybe gotten attacked by a stray cougar. And again, I didn't remember a thing. There was a lot of public interest in the incident due to the fact that it was the second one involving our family, and me specifically. People loved mysteries, and I had given them one. If I wasn't making it up, and I wasn't, then what sort of trauma could give me amnesia twice? No one could do anything but speculate, endlessly. My family tried to just get on with life, but it hadn't been easy. Or like impossible. There had just been too much stupid speculation and skepticism. At school, there were rumors that we'd both done the whole thing for attention, and Spencer's injury was fake, that he had a psychotic episode and tried to kill me. It was a mess. And so we just left. Why am I even thinking about this again? I shook off all those old negative thoughts. It was years ago. People had forgotten. Everything was going to be fine. I stacked the empty boxes off to the side. On the opposite side of the room, I set up my painting things. The cabinet for my art supplies was nearby, and I quickly stacked everything inside. The sunny room was going to be perfect for painting. It even faced north. I love they remember that when they picked this room for me. Amber, are you finished yet? I'm nearly done. Give me a few more minutes. I turned my attention to my small library of old books. I had all the classics, all used and worn, and beautiful. And, of course, there was lots of Shakespeare. It only took a few minutes to get the books on the shelves. I'd try to organize them properly tomorrow. Once I was finished unpacking, I gave my room a satisfied once-over before heading downstairs to help Mom unpack the kitchen. What should I do with the boxes in my room? We'll have to figure out what the recycling pickup schedule is so we can crush them and set them out. For now, just leave them. Okay. Meanwhile, can you set these out on the back porch? She motioned to a few large, empty flower pots near the table. No problem. When you're back, I have a few things for you to take to the basement. Yay. Come on, hurry it up. Aye, Captain. I hefted the stack of pots and managed to wobble my way to the back door with them. Navigating the door handle was a bit interesting, but I managed to get outside without breaking anything. I set them down near one of the brick columns and looked across the overgrown backyard. Something interesting caught my eye, and I hopped off the porch to investigate. At the back, in a little hollowed-out area near the fence, was a large ring of white mushrooms with round caps. That, my friend, is a fairy ring. A fairy ring! I smiled as I crouched down and poked one of them. We'd had one at our last house, too. Dad had tried everything to get rid of it, but it was very persistent. No matter what he treated it with, it always came back. He wouldn't be happy about it, but for some reason, I liked having it here. I love the art in this game. Oh, excuse me. I smiled slightly, remembering playing with Spencer in our previous backyard. We'd play a tag, and whoever made it inside the circle first would be safe. Or we'd lay inside it and pretend we could see the fairies dancing on the mushroom tops or playing in tree branches. I took a long, deep breath. I'm so glad to be back. What are you doing out here? I sighed and stood, carefully brushing off my jeans. Why does he always have to sound so angry? Mom has more work for you to do, you know, if you have time between daydreaming and communing with nature. Is it possible for you to speak to me like I'm a human being? It would be if I was sure you were a human being. I hated the way he always said things like that with a completely straight face. Ha ha, very amusing. I assure you that sisters are indeed human. Brothers, however, I'm not sure about. Normally, one would assume he hadn't meant it literally. I could never tell with him. Just get back inside. As he turned away, he snapped a foot out, kicking over a few of the mushrooms. Our first choice. Do we stay calm? Or do we get angry at him for kicking the fairy ring? Choices. It's a very simple choice too. Keep my composure or allow my true feelings. So I bet that Spencer thinks and or knows that we are a changeling, but we don't realize that we are a changeling. I think when we went missing those years ago. Do you guys know how changelings work? Do you guys know the lore behind changelings? From what I know, basically is that changelings are like a baby or a young child basically gets swapped out with a changeling, and changeling, I assume, gets their memories, and basically just takes the place of the child. So, I'm gonna get angry. I've had enough of his crap. I couldn't help but get angry. It was probably petty of me, but he always did that kind of thing. I was so tired of it. I grabbed his arm, holding it tightly when he tried to pull away. Why do you always have to do things like that? Who cares? They're just mushrooms. What's your problem? You are. You don't always have to lash out at things just because I like them. He opened his mouth as if to respond, but didn't quite get it out. What are you two doing out there? Quit fighting and get back in here and help. Spencer yanked his arm out of my grasp, narrowing his eyes. Don't touch me. His angry hiss echoed in my head as I watched him stalk back inside. I looked down at the crumpled mushrooms lying in broken bits on the grass. They'd grow back. It was stupid to care. I hated seeing something pretty messed up for a stupid reason. I hated that he had to ruin everything like some kind of creepy assassin of joy. I shoved my hands in my pockets and headed back inside. There was a quiet rustle of dried leaves behind me, and I glanced back. There was nothing there. Probably a squirrel or something. Casting one last glance at the fairy ring, I stepped back into the kitchen, prepared for a list of chores to complete before dinner. I was just glad Dad was already talking about ordering pizza instead of trying to cook. That night, I had a vivid dream. In it was the sense I was looking for something and that I had to find my way home. There were tall trees draped in emerald moss and groping branches that reached to the sun. There was faint singing, childish voices whose words I couldn't make out. It was a dream that left the taste and smell of warm, wet earth in my mouth as I woke. The smell quickly faded and was replaced by that of bacon and eggs as sunlight warmed my eyelids, beckoning me to wake up. I rolled over and snuggled deep into my blankets. Mom was already up. I could hear her downstairs talking to Dad as she cooked breakfast. The prickle of sunlight against my eyelids coaxed me out of sleep and warmed my face. Amber, I know you want to sleep in, but we still have a lot of unpacking to do. I'm up. Sort of. The last remnants of my dream faded as I staggered out of bed into my closet to rummage for something to wear. It was a dream I'd had many times, though not for a while. With that sense of having to get home, I assumed it was a dream from when I'd gotten lost in the woods. From when I'd gotten spirited away, as my grandma always called it. Being back must have been dredging up some of the old feelings from back then. I glanced toward my half-open curtains. It looks a bit chilly this morning. I should probably find something warm. This far north, it always felt like summer simply stopped abruptly, giving way to instant autumn. Yesterday, when we arrived, it had been sunny with a hint of chill, but I was betting the mornings were pretty cold. Hey! Mom says to stop fooling around and get your butt downstairs. I nearly jumped out of my skin when he just walked into my room. In response, I snatched a stray sock and threw his way. I'm getting dressed, you creep. Then shut the door. Fine. I marched across the room to slam the door in Spencer's face. I threw my clothes on and wrangled my curly hair into some semblance of a ponytail. Not exactly the height of stylishness, but we still had unpacking to do, and Mom could be a slave driver. Function over fashion, or whatever. I got downstairs in time to see Mom setting out the plates. First breakfast in the new house. Wow, you really went all out. Bacon, eggs, even pancakes. Glorious, glorious coffee. Dad walked by munching on something and Mom scowled at him. Sit at the table if you want to eat. Too busy. He reached for another piece of bacon, but she slapped his hand. He just grinned at her. As soon as she turned away, he grabbed the bacon and shoved it in his mouth, then fled to the room. I rolled my eyes at them and was about to sit when Mom yanked my breakfast away ruthlessly. What? She pointed to several garbage bags and a box by the door. Uh-oh. You said you'd take them out last night and didn't. The bags go to the bins out front and the box go to the tool shed out back. Both of them before breakfast. Mom! I'm hungry. I crave sustenance. I made sad, whining noises and pawed at her for my plate. She wasn't buying it. Spencer swung by the table and took my plate out of her hands, snatching a slice of bacon off it and shoving it in his mouth. Like father, like son. Thanks, Mom. Looks delicious. That's mine, just so you know. He's sidled past me, holding the plate just out of reach. There's plenty of food. Take the trash out, then you can eat. You are so mean. All of you. It was useless to argue. I already knew that. I sighed and trudged to the door, fumbling with a pair of flip-flops there before picking my poison and heading out. Let's go out front first. I hope you know that this is cruel and unusual punishment. It's not punishment, just fulfilling obligations. Cruel! I barely got the last word in before the door slammed shut. She wasn't big about obligations and responsibilities, but considering that Dad was much worse, I probably shouldn't complain. I headed down the short drive to where the jumbled bins were sitting just behind the mailboxes. It was a gorgeous, crisp fall morning. Chilly, but invigorating. And it was a real shame I was going to spend it cleaning and unpacking when I could be contacting Allie to hang out. We hadn't seen each other in 5 years, so I was really looking forward to catching up. I just hoped I'd at least have the time to call her later in the day. I was in the middle of dropping the bags into the green bin when a loud crash, followed by a few desperate curses, came from just over the wooden fence. More crashes and what sounded like scattering cans and plastic bottles ensued. We hadn't met the neighbors yet, so I wasn't sure I wanted to go poking my nose over the fence, but it sounded like someone was having some major issues over there. Ugh, no! There was the sound of scattering trash can. I tossed the bags in the bin and slammed the lid shut before taking a peek around the side of the fence. There was a boy about my age, riding several garbage bins and hastily picking up scattered paper and plastics before shoving them in the blue container. Hey, yeah. Need a hand? Ah! I'd clearly startled him. In a rather spectacular display, he jumped nearly a foot in the air and somehow ended up on his butt on the ground. He stared at me with pale green eyes. Okay, weird eyes. He jumped to his feet, snatching a plastic bottle off the grass as he did so. Nope, I got it. Just gotta pick everything up. He dropped the bottle into the recycling bin, giving me an embarrassed smile. I sort of attacked when I was bringing the trash out. Fair enough, I've waged epic battle with many a trash bin myself. They're a terrible enemy, to be sure. Oh yes, especially the blue ones. Have to watch out for those. They get me every time. We both laughed awkwardly. So, you're one of the new neighbors? Guilty as charged. I'm not quite charitable enough to take the trash out for complete strangers on a Saturday morning. Nice. He gave me a quick look up and down, then immediately turned red again and rubbed the back of his neck as he bent to pick up more of the scattered trash. I mean, you know, it's nice to have someone my age move in instead of just weird old people or something. Okay, so he seemed nice. The purple hair was cool. I didn't mind the piercings either. I grinned slightly. Yeah, no weird old people over here. Oh, by the way, I'm Elliot. I'm Amber. Cool, Amber. I will totally remember that. Amber. He murmured my name to himself a few times as if trying to memorize it. So, awkward silence descended. Introductions were always so weird. Where are you guys moving from? Oh, just out of state. We used to live here a few years ago and just came back because my grandfather's sick. Sorry to hear that. Well, he's a bit better than he was, so it's okay. But we just wanted to be closer to them because of it. Makes sense. Gave me a sidelong look. So, starting school here soon then? I mean, you're still in high school, right? For another year. I'm a senior. Cool, same here. My brother's a senior too. Oh, so you're like twins or something? Yeah, lucky for you, I'm the nice one though. So your brother's the evil one? Sadly, yes. Spencer is evil. Oh, cool. Well, I mean, it's not cool that your brother's evil, but it's cool that I lucked out and met the good twin. I have a stepsister. She's also kind of evil. Ooh, an evil stepsister. That's pretty classic. Between you and me, we should probably make sure they never meet. The world would definitely be in peril. I bent down behind one of the bins to pick up some of the things he hadn't grabbed yet, smiling slightly. Oh, you don't have to do that. I don't mind. I liked him. He had a cute smile. Hey, Mozzie! I heard the voice and decided to pop my head up and see who was talking. Bad idea. Watch out! I barely even saw the football coming before it bounced off my head. Holy, what? I was pretty sure I actually saw stars. My legs buckled and I immediately felt Elliot grab me around the waist to keep me standing. Whoa, oh god, are you okay? You like the emotes? My friend made them. Radiomatic. Oh, hold on. I forget that this is not another monitor and that I actually have to lean over. I know my own rules. On Instagram. I love her art. Her art is so good. She's such a good artist. She made my emotes. Mwah, love her. His voice was right next to my ear. I could feel his breath ghosting across my cheek. Rapid footsteps sounded across my yard. Why did you kill him? His eyes are gold. Trying to see if he has fangs or not. I don't know if you ask me. I don't know if they have werewolves in this game, but like, if you asked me, this man gives off werewolf vibes. I am so sorry. I didn't realize there was anyone else over here. No, it's okay. I've always wondered what it would be like to have my brain knocked loose. It's quite freeing. It's quite an arm you have. The new guy laughed awkwardly. I am so sorry. Are you okay? Should we help you inside? It wasn't exactly terrible being held by Elliot, but I decided I should probably pull away and try to stand on my own. I shook my head, trying to rid myself of the blurred vision. No, I'm good. Awkward silence descended before Elliot laughed nervously. That was kind of amazing. I laughed, then winced and reached up to touch the bump forming on my head. Ow. Let me look. I turned toward him and let him examine my forehead while I stared at his strange eyes. I don't know what green eyes represent, though. They were such an odd shade of green. I wondered if they were contacts. I couldn't imagine anyone having eyes that color naturally. Well, you have a bump. Is that the official diagnosis, doctor? You should put some ice on it. Man, I am so sorry. I feel terrible. It's fine, really. Blame it on my utterly bad timing if you want. I'm Danny. I'm Danny, by the way. King of terrible first impressions. It's a pleasure to meet you, Your Majesty. And by the way, Mozzie? Ah, dumb nickname. I blame my stepsister. Just ignore it. What are you even doing up this early? I don't usually see you before noon if I don't come over and drag you out of bed. Which is what I was about to do, by the way. A night owl? You could say that. He rubbed the back of his neck again. He seemed to do that a lot when he was embarrassed. I'm not much of a morning person either. Right? Mornings suck. Too bright, too early. I like mornings. The only good thing about mornings is coffee. Amber, can you stop flirting and get back in here to carry the rest of the crap out back? I flinched at the sound of Spencer's voice and shot a glare at the house just in time to see his auburn curls vanish back inside. The evil twin? Ah, yes. Unfortunately. Ugh, we're still unpacking, so I should head back in. It was nice to meet you both. There's a fly in our room. Hey, where are you going to school? We're both at Stone Circle Academy. Maybe we'll see you there? That's right, we'll be starting on Monday, so I'll definitely see you there. Nice! The fly left. Don't forget to put ice on that. I waved at them both and headed back inside. I glanced back once and saw Danny elbow Elliot and say something to him. Elliot turned red and shoved Danny's shoulder. He caught me watching and waved sheepishly. I waved back and went inside laughing. Mom made a bit of a fuss over the bump on my head and insisted on an ice pack while I ate breakfast. But by the time I finished, she was already dictating the list of chores I had to take care of when I was done. It was going to be a long, long day. Chapter 2. Stone Circle Academy. I don't see them anywhere. It is Monday, October 11th. They were on a counter last night. Where are they? How the heck should I know? You never let me drive, so I don't keep up with the car keys. You two are going to be late for your first day if you don't find them soon. Not my fault. Spencer was scouring the house looking for the car keys that he insisted he'd left on the counter. I was rinsing the breakfast dishes and Mom was supervising. Spencer let out an exasperated groan from near the door where he was hunting around for the keys. Where's my other shoe? Oh my god, I don't know. I don't keep up with your stuff. I finished the dishes and wiped my hands, grabbing my book bag as I headed to the front door to see if Spencer had left the keys there instead. If I'm late because of you, we won't be late if you just help me find the keys. I wouldn't have to help you find them if you just keep up with your stuff. I stalked to the front to check the little shelf by the cabinet there. No keys. I don't know why I opened the cabinet to check inside, but when I pulled the door open, I was confronted by Spencer's worn-out tennis shoe. I blinked at it in surprise. What the... I snatched it out of the cabinet and stalked back to the kitchen. I could only imagine that my sleep-deprived mom had put it in there while doing the last of the unpacking. I wondered if Spencer had checked the fridge for the keys yet. At this rate, it wouldn't surprise me if that's where they were. I found your stupid shoe. Spencer looked up from where he was rummaging through kitchen drawers for the keys. I tossed him the shoes, and as it somersaulted through the air to him, something flew out and hit the floor with a decidedly metallic sound. We both looked down in surprise. The car keys were sprawled carelessly on the kitchen floor. What were the keys doing in his shoe? Spencer immediately glared at me. Don't look at me! I didn't put them there. Where did you find this? In the cabinet by the front door. I could tell exactly what he was thinking, but I just shrugged. Sorry, it wasn't me. I don't know why your shoe was there, but I'm not in the mood to hear you blame me for it. He just scoffed as he set the shoe down and shoved his foot in it. He snatched the keys off the floor. Yeah, right. Mom hurried back into the kitchen. We found them. Someone put them in the front cabinet. I know. Don't ask me. Maybe Dad did it. Whatever. Someone probably just wasn't paying attention. You two need to leave. Now. You still have to stop and check in at the office before class. She practically shoved us both through the door. And thus came the quiet, uncomfortable drive to school. Yay. Spencer was driving our shared car, and I was sitting quietly in the passenger seat because fighting over who got to drive just wasn't worth it. I hated riding with him, though. But I had no choice on that point. I was hoping, after catching up with a couple of old friends, I might be able to start bumming a ride with one of them. In the meantime, though... So, looking forward to your first day? We might not get along, but I hated awkward silences almost as much as fighting. Ugh, it should not have been this painful to ride in a car with my brother for 10 minutes. Yes, typical Spencer response. Curt, cryptic, utterly useless for conversation. I take that as a no. Depends how many classes I have with you. Ugh, really? Can we not start the day like this? Then can you not talk to me? I bit my lip and stared out the window. It would have been nice if we could have, I don't know, supported each other or something. Like actual siblings. Gonna sneeze. No, I'm not. Last time I provoked him, things didn't go well. I'm just gonna ignore him. He was always like this. I should have been used to it by now. Trying to talk to him anymore never did any good. Over the years, I'd learned that the easiest way to avoid an argument with him was to just pretend he didn't exist. I stared out the window, watching the trees pass. I hated this. A few minutes later, we were pulling into the school parking lot. As soon as we found a space, Spencer jumped out and went straight inside. I grabbed my stuff and slammed the door, pausing to take a deep breath. I was not letting him ruin my day. Or I'd try not to anyway. By the time I got inside, he was already walking out of the office with his schedule in hand. He didn't even look at me. I guess that was his way of letting me know I was on my own today. Not that I expected anything else. It didn't take long to get my own schedule printed. As I left the office still looking it over, I heard a long, familiar squeal heading my way. I couldn't keep the grin off my face when I saw Allie Fisher, the one person I'd kept in touch with the last 5 years, barreling toward me. Amber, I just saw Spencer. Dang, he's pretty. I didn't think he'd get so tall. Ew, that's the first thing you're going to say to me when we finally see each other again? Also, that is not tall. You'd tower over him with a good set of heels. Oh, come on, he's not my brother. I'm allowed to admire him. She grinned and grabbed my arm, pulling me away from the office and down the hall. You're gross, and your crush on him is super weird. Nope, like I said, I'm allowed. Allie, trust me when I say this, you can do better. No, I don't think so. In fact, I'm thinking later today I need to catch up with Spencer a bit. I say again, ew. She just laughed at my discomfort. I couldn't keep the smile off my face as we walked together. We'd kept in touch, but this was my first time actually seeing her in a long time. So, how's the unpacking going? I was going to call this weekend, but I figured you'd be busy. Ugh, we're nearly done. Mom's been a total slave driver. It's kind of scary. I remember how she is. I actually thought about coming over to help, but, well, then I remembered how she is. You're the worst friend. Nah, I'm a great friend, and I'm super glad you're back. This is going to be a great year. I'm glad to be back too. Though, before anything else, I do have to warn you about... I heard you were back in town. That voice. I shot Allie a look and she gave me an apologetic smile in return. So this was what she was going to warn me about? Kara, my other friend from Pine Hollow. Hope you managed to stick around for the full year. Wouldn't want you to end up getting lost again as soon as you get back in town. Well, there goes the idea that people have forgotten about that. I don't intend to get lost anywhere. If you want to though, I can definitely give you directions. From beside me, Allie snickered quietly, but said nothing. I really couldn't believe Kara was still bitter over that incident. I got that my last disappearance had disrupted her little concert, and that she and her mother had always had big aspirations regarding her musical career. But it's not like I'd ruined things on purpose, and I hadn't exactly asked everyone to ditch the concert and join the manhunt for me. I knew it had to have sucked, but I had apologized, and I was getting tired of apologizing for something I couldn't even fully remember. Anyway, Anyway, they're pretty strict on attendance these days. The teachers aren't too keen on people who just take off for attention whenever they want, so you might want to be careful. No one is going to believe convenient amnesia either. Not this time. She walked past with a glare aimed my way. I let out a long sigh. Well then, what a thing to come back to. My family had moved away before we'd had the chance to work things out, but maybe I should have tried to mend fences with her before we got back. To be fair, I hadn't expected her to still be mad. As it was, that was just another thing to feel guilty for. At the very least, I was very sorry that her relationship with Allie soured because of me as well. They clearly weren't exactly buddies anymore either. Sorry about that. I was just getting around to warning you about her. She's been cranky ever since she heard you were moving back. Allie pulled me down the hall in the opposite direction of Kara. Don't apologize. Visual novels are exhausting on the voice, you guys. I can't believe she's mad. Normal people don't get mad about things like that. Well, you know, she thinks I was trying to mess things up for her intentionally because I was jealous. Or whatever. That's ridiculous. Maybe, but she wasn't the only one. Half the town thought it was some cry for attention, remember? Oh, whatever. Anyone who knew you at the time should have known better. That includes Kara. That's when Spencer started hating me too. So maybe they know something I don't. My nose itches. I gave her a tired smile. Come on, perk up. You can't look all grumpy on your first day. I know, I know. So, what's your first class? Literature, Mrs. Roberts. Same. I was relieved. Being around someone who actually wanted me there might make my morning suck a little less. You'll love her. Come on. She dragged me the rest of the way to class. Wow. I immediately scanned for certain unfriendly faces, but was relieved that neither Spencer nor Kara was anywhere to be seen. I did see some other familiar faces, though. Oh, it's Danny and Elliot! They were sitting at the far side of the room, surrounded by a group of friends who seemed to be taking great pleasure in prodding Elliot awake every time he nodded off. He is definitely not a morning person. Elliot's purple hair and black clothes stuck out like a sore thumb among Danny and the rest of the clean-cut, sporty guys. I got the feeling Danny was the main reason he was in that group. Unlike Elliot, who looked out of place, Danny fit in perfectly. I couldn't help but wonder how those two would become friends. They were so different. I can start building relationships. I wonder how many... I think... Aren't there like 6 love interests in this game? I don't remember. Decisions. I did... Like, Elliot's really sweet. But Danny was kinda... Like... I don't know. I'm excited to see who the other potential love interests are. In which case... I don't know if I should start developing relationships yet. These earbuds hate my ears. Let's talk to Danny. Danny happened to look my way after another round of laughter, and I caught his eye. I waved slightly, giving him a hopeful smile. He brightened and shot me a blinding smile in return, causing a few others to turn and look my way as he waved me over enthusiastically. I didn't really like big groups of people much, but I still kind of wanted to stop and say hello, even though it didn't look like there were any empty seats near him anyway. There was a jumble of queries about who I was, and while I couldn't hear the response, I assumed he and Elliot were explaining to everyone that I moved in next door. Boyd. I'm good at English, you guys. In my mood to see that someone besides Allie also seemed glad to see me, especially after dealing with Spencer and Kara already that morning. Fortunately, before I could go over and say hello, Allie grabbed my arm and dragged me toward Mrs. Roberts. Come on, I'll introduce you before class starts. Danny looked a little disappointed, but also amused as I was dragged away. I mouthed sorry to him, and he shook his head, grinning slightly as he waved. I hoped we'd at least be able to catch up sometime later. Allie introduced me to Mrs. Roberts, who gave me a quick rundown of what the class was studying at the moment. A Midsummer Night's Dream. I'd read it last year, actually, so catching up wouldn't be that difficult. We have an empty seat at the front of the class and several at the back. You may take your pick. She shot me a friendly smile that made me feel quite at ease. I suspected that I'd liked her. Again. And welcome back to Stone Circle, Miss Lewis. Thanks, I'm really glad to be back. Unfortunately, none of the seating options were near people I knew, which was a little disappointing. Looks like she has everyone paired up for group work. The seat, is this a love interest? The seat up at the front was next to a sort of grumpy looking, well-dressed blonde. He didn't look extremely friendly. Come on, man! He has a pointed ear. Like, bets on what he is? He's got like piercing blue eyes. I'm running out of supernatural creatures. We have changelings? I assume vampires and werewolves. Who knows? Maybe I'm just like... Can you guys tell that I love fantasy? Anyways, the man has pointed ears. Look at that. Pointed ears, unnaturally piercing blue eyes. Like... This is... Anyway. He's definitely a love interest. There were also 2 empty sets of paired desks at the back and 1 open seat next to a gloomy boy with messy brown hair. He didn't even look up, and Mrs. Roberts explained my choices. Looked up as Mrs. Roberts. Oh, he's kind of cute though! His ears are hidden behind his hair. He looks normal. What's the catch? He actually just looks like a normal guy. He's really cute. I like him. The only other seat was on the second to last row by the window. It was tempting, to be honest, but I should probably take a seat that at least gives me a reading partner. But both options just look like so much fun. Oh, crap. Oh, okay. The guy on the right is the front, guy on the left is the back. Right? I want to sit next to you. Forget obviously fantasy boy with the freaking pointy ear. Alright, this guy's cute. I felt uncomfortable at the idea of sitting next to the blonde. He didn't look especially friendly and was kind of radiating vibes that screamed, "Don't sit here." I decided to follow my intuition on that one. Instead, I shuffled past him and headed to the back. Literature was my favorite subject, so it shouldn't matter if I sat in the front or not anyway. I slid into the desk next to the brown-haired boy, wondering why every desk around him was empty. He looked up with a surprise when I sat down. I shivered slightly as I sat my backpack on the floor. That's weird. Is there a draft back here? What does that mean? What? I glanced up at the ceiling, but there was no vent overhead. It was definitely really cold, though. What? It wasn't just my imagination, because the brown-haired boy was still wearing a jacket and scarf. I'd probably have to remember to bring an extra layer tomorrow, too. Is that just him? Oh, he's got something to do with the cold. That's interesting. Just my luck. I caught the boy's eye and shot him a smile. It's kind of cold back here, huh? Gentle brown... God. Guys, I'm falling for this. I'm falling for this guy. He's really cute. Gentle brown eyes gazed at me from under his long fringe. He looked away quickly, chewing his lower lip. You shouldn't have chosen that seat. He mumbled something, but it was too quiet for me to hear. I didn't get a chance to ask him to repeat it before the teacher started talking again. Today we'll be continuing our reading of A Midsummer Night's Dream with our partners. William, if you'll be so good as to share your book with Amber for today. His name is William! His head shot up and he stared at me with an expression that looked vaguely like horror. I smiled awkwardly. Shy, I hope? Sorry to be a bother. He looked away. Shut the hell up. He looked away quickly, but it was hard not to notice how his ears went red. Definitely shy. That was a relief. Shyness, I could handle. I studied this play last year, so I'm already familiar with it. I've also read it before. Oh, good, so this should be pretty easy. He chewed his lip before looking up at me seriously. You should ask if you can move up front tomorrow. Most people don't like sitting by me. Wait, is he mad I sat here? No, I didn't think that was it. He didn't look angry, just sort of miserable. He definitely struck me as the awkward sort, but that didn't explain the other empty chairs around him. Surely people wouldn't refuse to sit by him just because he was a little shy, right? I don't think I'll mind sitting here. I lowered my voice to whisper. The guy up front looks sort of cranky. William's lips twitched slightly, but he didn't quite smile. I don't mind if you stay, but if you ever want to move, I'll understand. It's fine, really. Don't worry about that. Anyway, where did you leave off reading? Why is he so convinced I want to move? Is he being bullied? That didn't seem right either. Not with Danny and Elliot and Allie in class with him. Danny and Elliot didn't seem the types to bully someone or put up with others doing it, and I knew Allie wasn't. Weird. I was nearly to the start of Act 4. Okay, great. We'll just start there then. Alright. We spent the next 45 minutes taking turns reading. I was really surprised at how confident he was once we got to work. Excuse me. Excuse me. Wait, hold on. I just have to do something real quick. Do-do-do. Dum-de-dum-de-dum. Hold on. Excuse me. I don't know if you could hear that.
Yeah, let's go to the other one.
Okay, back to the game. His voice was so quiet that at times I had to lean closer just to hear him. But he read without stumbling over the sometimes complex dialogue. I expected him to be more hesitant, but it seemed like it was just a conversation he wasn't great at. Anyway, it was nice to have a decent reading partner considering how a lot of people made a big fuss about hating Shakespeare. I quickly found myself feeling quite pleased with my seating choice. Me too! He seemed to relax as time passed as well. Even if it was a bit cold. What is up with that? What creature radiates cold? When class was nearing its end, I looked up at the clock and stretched. We made a lot of progress today. A soft thud next to my seat caught my attention. I glanced down at the floor and saw that my pencil case, where I keep my drawing pencils, had somehow fallen out of my book bag. Huh. I thought I closed that. I leaned down to pick it up and put it back in. Is everything okay? Yeah, just noticed something fell out of my bag. Moments later, the bell rang, and the rest of the class immediately packed up and vacated. William and I were both slower to gather things. Anyway, I was trying to say that you're good at this. Thank you. I actually have a big soft spot for Shakespeare. Pretty much everyone I know thinks it's weird. It's not weird. I mean, I don't think it's weird anyway. I also like Shakespeare. I'm glad. It's more fun to sit by someone who also likes it. I'll see you later. Sure, see you. Our eyes met again and he gave me the sweetest smile before heading out the door. Guys, I think I'm in love. You've got to get you okay. The only way for me to not go down the path that gets him as endgame is if you show me a hot vampire. Okay? Otherwise, I'm into this dude. No matter what he said, I didn't think I would regret sitting by him at all. Anyone who liked Shakespeare couldn't be that bad at the very least. I leaned to pick up my book bag and my pencil case was laying on the floor next to it. I just picked this up.
Yes, I love
Maybe I didn't put it in all the way. Frowning slightly, I picked it up and put it securely in my book bag. Allie was over in one corner surrounded by people I didn't know, so I decided to just head to my next class and catch her later. I was pretty sure trigonometry was on the same floor as literature, but it had been several years since I was last here, and I'd never actually come to the high school wing. My nose tickles. I wasn't entirely sure where I was going. Why is it so crowded? I was jostled across the hall by the crowd, trying to aim for a nearly empty spot by an open door. I reached it at the same time as a pale-haired girl in a blue coat. We nearly ran into each other, but she caught me by the shoulders, preventing an embarrassing collision. She is gorgeous! She also has green eyes and, like, beautiful hair. Pale blonde, white blonde, platinum blonde. Wait, that voice! That's a guy! I stared up at him somewhat in awe. He was so pretty. Damn, I thought they were gonna give us a... How could a guy be that pretty? It's unfair, truly. Sheesh! He's so right, Ace. He smiled down at me. Are you okay? Didn't mean to nearly crash into you. Oh, yes, sorry. I'm okay. I quickly straightened and tried to get my bearings. I don't remember it being this— Watch it! Someone very nearly sheared my nose off with his backpack. I don't think they even heard me shout. Is it always this crowded between classes? Jeez. Hey, can I ask you where? Wish me luck. Before I could finish, the boy bounded away from the wall and— oh no. I squeezed my eyes shut as he narrowly bowled over two brunettes twice his size. I expected him to bounce off and go sprawling, but he somehow managed to dodge and bowl over someone smaller than him instead. Sorry, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? I watched him fuss over the girl for a few seconds before hurrying off down the hall, squeezing his way through the crowd. What creature do you think looks like this? Are they all different? They can't all be. There's like 6 of them. There can't be 6 different supernatural creatures.
Hey, I have a stack of all.
I am so curious about who these guys are. I want to know everything about all of them. I want to know the story, the lore behind Pines Hollow. I watched him fuss over the girl for a few seconds before hurrying off down the hall, squeezing his way through the crowd. He seemed pretty popular. Everyone waved and called to him as we bounced through. It didn't take long to learn that his name was Corvin. Man's name is Corvin. If only because people kept chatting it as they said hello. That's an unusual name. As I got ready to brave the tide of students myself, I noticed a book had fallen in the middle of the hallway, right where Corvin had run into that girl. Oh shoot, did he drop that? No one else appeared to have noticed it there. Well, I hesitated for a moment. I didn't want to just leave it, but I was really doubtful of my ability to get across the hall and pick something up off the floor without getting steamrolled by the crowd. And I was going to be late if I waited until the hall cleared to get it. Still, it was going to get damaged if I just left it in the middle of the floor. I should probably either return it to Corvin or get it to the office. I am diving in. I want this book. Someone clipped the edge of the book with their foot as they walked past, sending it sliding across the tile toward the end of the lockers. I couldn't watch anymore. At this rate, it would be ruined. I shifted my backpack slightly and practically threw myself into the crowd. If Pretty Boy could do it, so could I. Probably. It wasn't quite as easy as he made it seem, probably because he was at least 6 inches taller than me. Not that I was short or anything, it was just really crowded. I jostled... Excuse me. Reading is a lot, you guys. I jostled my way through the hurried students, nearly losing an eye to a wayward backpack at least once. When I was finally near the other side of the hall, I made a sort of dive around the corner for the book. A head of white blonde hair came into my field of view a few seconds too late. I wasn't able to halt my momentum before skulls cracked against each other. He's got band-aids on his head. I crouched on the floor, seeing stars as I clutched my head. Pretty Boy was back, and his head must have been made of titanium. Jeez. That sounds like a hint. Maybe I need to start wearing a helmet. Ow. Oh my god, are you okay? Are you okay? I didn't see you. Wow. He was 2 for 2 when it came to running into me at this point. If he kept this up, I was going to have to start considering the possibility that either he and I were soulmates, or I'd somehow become magnetized in the last 10 minutes. I blinked rapidly, waiting for my vision to come back fully before I answered. A pair of large hands closed on my shoulders and started shaking me. Are you alright? Can you see me? Do I need to get you to the office?
Ethan, watch out.
Please stop shaking me. Sorry, you just weren't answering, so I was worried.
Ethan, behind you.
I rubbed my forehead and peered at the blonde boy with one eye. We stared at each other for a long time. He really had the most amazing green eyes. Shoot, I dropped my glasses. He suddenly started looking around wildly for the glasses that were right by his knee. I picked them up and handed them over. He shoved them onto his face and looked at me again, smiling this time. I think you dropped a book earlier. I was trying to get it so I could return it to you. Oh yeah, I just came back for it. And he blinked suddenly, giving me another long look. When did you see me drop it? Earlier, when you ran into that girl.
Yes.
Right. It was kind of crowded though. You must have a good eye. Well, I was watching since we'd nearly run into each other and you sort of Geronimo'd out into the crowd right after. Oh yeah, we really ran into each other over there too. I guess our meeting was meant to be. Thanks for trying to save my book. That was sweet. My brother's active again. He shoved it into his backpack before standing and offering me his hand. I took it and pulled myself to my feet, if only because I was still a bit dizzy from the epic headbutt. Thanks. Hello. He didn't immediately let go of my hand, but instead pulled me slightly closer, peering very seriously into my eyes. Whoa. I felt my haze... I suddenly forgot how to speak English. I felt my face heating up again under his scrutiny. What's your name? I'm Ember. I tried to pull my hand away and he instantly released it, smiling slightly. He reached up and gently brushed my hair away from my cheek. He chuckled softly. Well, I'm glad to have met you, Ember. Before he could say much else, he was called away by another boy and darted off, leaving me staring after him. Whoa. Just, what was that? Holding hands with someone on the first day? I'm impressed. I shook myself out of that daze and glared at Allie. We weren't holding hands. He was helping me stand. Right. Whoa. What happened to your head? Oh, that guy. I think his name's Corvin. He and I sort of ran into each other. Nice. Yeah, if you're going to find a crazy way to introduce yourself to a guy, going with something classic works. Yeah, I did not bash my head into his just to meet him. Right. But he's pretty cute, yeah? I rolled my eyes. Whatever. Can you show me where Trig is before we're both late? Oh, you still suck with directions. Come on. My next 2 classes were fairly boring, at least when it came to academic content. When it came to social interaction, though, it was definitely a different story. First of all, Corvin was in trigonometry. He didn't seem to notice me at all, though. Not that I was surprised. I'd definitely been right about him being popular. He was surrounded by others before class started. The crowd around Danny in literature was nothing compared to the amount of people vying for Corvin's attention. It was a little weird, actually. On top of that, he was a complete and total klutz. He dropped his pencil a dozen times, tripped over his own feet, and at one point somehow landed on another student's desk face first. At most schools, he probably would have been a laughingstock, but not so much here. In fact, other students sort of fawned over him every time he hurt himself. 3 different people offered to escort him to the nurse for an ice pack after he fell. He was kind of an airhead, but I guess he must have been really nice to have that many friends and admirers. It was probably cynical to think it might just be the way he hemorrhaged compliments. Corvin's antics aside, Spencer was in both trig and chemistry. I couldn't help but wonder how having 2 classes with me must have impacted how good a day he was having. And if watching him alternate between glaring and pretending I didn't exist wasn't bad enough, Kara was also in chemistry with us. The moment she saw me and gave me a smug little grin, I knew something was up. So I was a little apprehensive going into class. It was sad we hadn't managed to patch things up, but I was ultimately okay with her not liking me. I wasn't okay with her trying to pick fights and cause problems just for the sake of doing it, though. And it didn't take long to work out what she was up to. I hadn't even got to my desk when 2 people who introduced themselves as Luke and Emery practically set up camp nearby to pepper me with questions about the whole childhood disappearing act. I didn't remember either of them, so I didn't think they were students who were at the school when it happened, and yet. They'd definitely gotten a pretty detailed version of what had happened from somewhere. Damn it, Kara.
Just break it. We'll smell like we're gonna come back here.
Okay, but like, why is everyone in this school pretty? So you really not remember what happened to you while you were missing? I heard you were attacked by a bear or something. Someone said you were the only witness to a murder out there, but none of the other victims were ever found. Do you think you blocked it all out because of the trauma? Is it true the police questioned you guys because they thought you tried to kill each other? I shot Spencer a quick look at that one. Is that how you got injured or whatever? Spencer was gritting his teeth, glaring at me. Not good. I could practically see the red, flashing light above his head declaring a level 7 nuclear event was imminent. Is there any way we can just not talk about this? Come on, we're just curious. I sighed, trying to figure out a diplomatic way to tell them to shut the heck up before my brother had a meltdown. It was a really long time ago. We just got back into town and are trying to settle in. There isn't much to tell anyway, but I think we'd rather not talk about it all the same. Everyone, please take your seats. At the teacher's words, everyone reluctantly retreated, leaving Spencer and me alone. I was trying to look anywhere but at him. I honestly hadn't expected anyone to bring this stuff up again. My gaze fell on Kara, who was still giving me that same smile. Of course, if someone was intentionally trying to bring it all up again, then it was no wonder people were interested. I sighed, trying to stir up rumors using that, of all things, was literally the most pointless endeavor. Fortunately, by the time class released, everyone seemed more interested in getting to the cafeteria before the lines got too long. Or maybe the average student's attention span wasn't long enough to remember that Spencer and I had an interesting backstory. Regardless, the class emptied quickly, which left me to find my way to the cafeteria alone. It didn't take me too long. The students crowding into the door were a dead giveaway. Is our mascot a unicorn?
Oh, that's right.
Pelts?
Oh, yeah.
Allie was nowhere in sight, unfortunately, so I grabbed a more or less decent looking sandwich and found an empty spot to eat alone. How many guys have we met? Elliot, Danny, Corvin, the blonde guy, William. Yeah. And I don't think those 2 guys, I don't think those 2 count. think I just missed whatever that said. I was so thrilled to be doing that on my first day. I barely touched my lunch when someone dropped a leather satchel on the table in front of me. I looked up and right into the blue eyes of the blonde guy from literature, the cranky one from the front of the class. The look on his face was not encouraging. Do you think he's just an elf? Like this is elf vibes if I've ever seen one. Like literally just fantasy elf, like high elf. That's right there. This is like modern high elf. It was sort of that look a person gets when they step on something really gross, like chewing gum. And of course, it was directed at me. Already glad I'm not sitting by him in class. This is where I sit. For lunch. This is where I sit for lunch, so you can go elsewhere. Nope. I was definitely not going to let him talk to me like that. What a charmer. How about no? I was here first. He leaned down and placed both hands on the table, glaring at me. Queen! Hello! Nice to see you in chat. I'm glad you could join us. Yes, I'm glad you agree. I swallowed nervously, my bravado evaporating instantly. Okay, scary. I don't care. I said you can leave. His name is Mark. Hey, Mark! Hey, Ember! I was relieved when a familiar face showed up, slinging an arm across the blonde's shoulders as he grinned down at me. Hey, Danny. I didn't get a chance to say hi in literature. It's okay. You were surrounded, and Allie was either going to introduce me to the teacher or pull my arm out of its socket if I didn't comply. Glad you chose to comply, then. Yeah, autonomy wasn't quite worth losing an arm. Mark shrugged away from Danny's arm and brushed off his sleeve, glaring at us both in turn. So you two know each other? Do you think you can kindly ask her to leave my table? Danny gave Mark a pained look, but the blonde boy didn't budge. Come on, Mark. She's new. You could at least give it a week before you start drawing lines everywhere and declaring where your territory is. I prefer eating alone. You know that. Danny sighed. Right. Yes, I do remember that. He gave me an apologetic smile. I was getting used to seeing that sort of smile from him. At least this time didn't involve me getting hit in the head. In any case, I was going to see if he wanted to come eat with me and Elliot and everyone else. Mark can be sort of antisocial, but he's not a bad guy. He doesn't mean any harm. Of course he didn't. He was just rudely kicking me out of his spot and trying to intimidate me. I stood. I didn't really get why I should have to put up with people being rude to me for no reason, and I wasn't really up for a pity invite to the popular table. Thanks anyway. I think I lost my appetite. Fortunately, I hadn't unloaded anything from my backpack, so I just snatched up and started away from the table. I wanted to ignore Danny's frown, but there was something inherently puppy dog. Right. So, definitely right on Danny being a werewolf. Calling it now. This is an elf, and this is a werewolf. My nose is tickles.
I think that was
Sorry. That hurt.
my bad.
Puppy dog about it. That warranted some kind of response. Thanks for the offer. Really, I'm just not up for it right now. You couldn't figure out who he was. Yeah, he came. First. Anyway, I left the cafeteria without another word, and no one came after me. Not that I really expected otherwise. I decided I'd just go somewhere quiet and read for the rest of lunch. And by read, I meant sulk. The day was definitely not going how I had planned. The rest of my day was uneventful. I only had to talk about my instance in, well, every single class. And it was the same battery of questions every time. Did I really lose my memory? What did I really see in the woods? Why did Spencer get questioned by the police? Did he really get attacked by an animal, or was it me? Did I see a murder? Was I abducted by aliens?
What?
Ugh, I still couldn't believe someone actually asked me the last one, in a non-ironic way. I made a mental note to stay far, far away from that kid. I couldn't avoid talking about it every time. Some students were relentless. Eventually, I just settled into the same rote answers. Yes, I really lost my memory. No, I don't know what I saw, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't a murder. The police were trying to cover all the bases, but Spencer had nothing to do with it. He was really attacked by something, but it wasn't me. And as far as I was aware, no aliens were involved. Most people opted to leave me alone when they realized they weren't going to get any juicy details out of me. So otherwise, there were no major problems. At any rate, no one else decided to be blatantly rude to me. What I really wanted to do was grab Allie and talk to her about what happened at lunch, but I didn't get a chance. I mean, she knew the guy better than I did. At the very least, she could tell me if it was just me or if they treated everyone that way. But we didn't have any afternoon classes together, and I hadn't seen her in the hall either. It was a little lonely, to be honest. Especially since the day was such a mixed bag. I knew I'd settle in. I knew the rumors would die out no matter how much Kara or anyone else tried to stir them up. There was just nothing to really talk about anyway. I knew first days were usually kind of rough. But I couldn't deny I'd been hoping for better. My head was pounding by the time I made my way to my locker and dumped the last of my newly assigned textbooks in it. I stood quietly for a moment, head leaning against the side as I geared myself up for the tense ride home. Hey, Amber! I turned hesitantly at the sound of my name, but sighed in relief when it was only Elliot, someone I doubted was going to pick a fight or interrogate me. I gave him a tired smile. I haven't figured out what Elliot is. Because she made note of his pale green eyes, and how unnatural they are, but I don't know what necessarily would have pale green eyes. And he's also not a morning person, he's a night owl. I gave him a tired smile. Whoa, you okay? You look, kind of pale. Are you feeling sick? Instinct is vampire. That was my first instinct too. Maybe. I'm fine. You sure? You're looking kind of anemic. I'm not anemic, just tired. It was a long day. Yeah, I heard. I mean, a lot of people were talking about you and your brother all day. Yeah, tell me about it. I slammed my locker door and hefted my book bag to my shoulder. Anemic? Missing some blood? I'm gonna swap out my earbuds because this is getting annoying. Which way do these go in? Like that. There. Boink. Hopefully these connect automatically.
Come down here. Other way. Oh. Other way. Behind you.
Stay there.
Run. Get out of here.
There was also Gwen. There's another boy. You might have missed. His name is William, and I really like him because he's really cute, and really sweet, and he's really shy. But
this way. Follow the torch.
He sits alone in class. And, like, no one sits around him. And the thing about him is that he is, like, cold. Like, he radiates coldness around him or something. Because when we sat down next to him, it was like there was a chill that came over us.
How do you find a water tank? Where are you?
I need to connect the earbuds. They are connecting.
Stop leaving. Oh my god.
Maybe a ghoul. That's what I was thinking. Because then, like,
Whoa.
are these the right earbuds?
Thing. You can mine it.
I don't know what else they could be. Unless they are still named Bose earbuds.
Yay.
Not those. Weird.
Keep mining out. Let me out.
Because, like, my pencil bag and stuff also fell out twice. Okay, hold on. What the heck? Please. Oh my goodness. Okay. Come on.
Where did you go? Come back here.
Connected to my phone. Connected to my Mac. Now connect to my computer. Okay, I'll be right back. I'm gonna deal with this. Okay, so I have decided to opt to just wear my headphones again. So here I am. Actually, I don't think I set the audio quite right here. North, hello, nice to see you here. Glad you could make it. We just got back. I had to swap out my earbuds. Oh, that's not what I want. I had to swap out my earbuds because they wouldn't stay in my ears. Glad you could make it. Wish I could understand what you said. Okay. So just to catch everyone up, my name is Amber Lewis. I am in a family with my mom, dad, and twin brother Spencer, who does not like me because in the past, we lived in Pine Hollow, which is where we are now. In the past, I went missing twice, once when I was 9 and then again when I was 12. And when I went missing at 12, my brother was on a search party for me, and he got separated, screamed, and then when he came running out, he was like hysterical, but then I came out after him. So I think that he knows and or thinks that I am a changeling, and that I'm not really his sister. And he has like basically hated my guts since. But basically we moved to the city for 5 years, and then we moved back because our grandpa was not feeling well. What else? We started school, and then we've met. Well, before we started school, we are neighbors with Danny and Elliot. This is Elliot in front of us right here. We think that he's probably gonna be a vampire, but we don't know for sure because there's not really any vampiric characteristics other than like pale skin. He talked to us just now about like, maybe are you anemic? You're very pale. And then Danny, who was the really nice popular guy, he's a jock. He's really nice though. I think he's a werewolf. When he smiles, you can see tiny little like fang-like teeth, which like could just be a normal person, because like people do have like their canines, but he also has golden eyes and tan skin, and he's a jock, so like all the characteristics are there. So I think Danny's a werewolf. And then we went to school. We met our best friend Allie. I don't know if she's anything. I think she's human. I think she's human. I think the love interests are the supernatural creatures, but everyone else is probably human. I think it'd be kind of cool if Allie wasn't. Just saying. But we met Allie. She's my best friend. She's got my back. Love her. And then we also met Kara, who used to be my friend, but has been upset at us ever since we went missing at 12 because we ruined a big concert she had planned. And she has held a grudge ever since, so we don't like her. And then in literature, we are assigned werewolf by Amber. Abba. Watch out, you guys might be Abba. By Abba if you're not careful. Yeah, so in literature, we Elliot and Danny and Allie are in that class, and then we also met. Well, we didn't really meet the blonde guy. What's his name? Not Corbin. Mark. What a weird name. That's not the name I was expecting for him. Mark, who we chose not to sit next to, and then William, who we did sit next to. He's really cute. And his whole thing is that he's like something about being cold all the time, I guess. And like he's really shy. People don't like sitting next to him because when they do, they're just cold. So like when we sat down next to him, there's just like a chill that ran across our back. So that was interesting. And then also our pencil case fell out of our backpack twice during our time sitting next to him, which was odd because the first time it's like, oh, that's weird. I must have not closed my back probably. Picks it up, talks to him, he leaves. It's on the ground again. I swear I just picked it up. So something weird about him. Gwen and I think maybe a ghoul or a ghost of some kind. That makes sense, I guess. And then blonde, and then we'll get back to Mark. But then we met Corvin, who is just this gorgeous man. He's got like platinum white blonde hair. We mistaked him for a girl at first. He's a klutz, like a serious klutz. But he's also like, everyone is really
Give you 1%.
attracted to him. Not attracted, like they fought, well, probably attracted. They're like they fawn over him. So like, whereas he would probably be bullied in any other school for being such a klutz, people love him for it. I don't know what that could be. I think if anyone has an idea, let me know, because that's an interesting one. So, is that he attracts people and he's a klutz. They do simp over him, but he's also he's gorgeous. He's a klutz. I think he had piercing green eyes. Because Mark had, yeah, Corvin had piercing green eyes. And then we go to lunch and we meet Mark officially, who was the blonde dude who's totally a high elf. He's literally like, he's got a pointed ear. It's so obvious. He has a pointed ear. He's a loner, I guess. He's kind of mean and like standoffish, but he's friends with Danny. And yeah, he's an elf. Like that's our thing. That's our hunch. So yeah, we've got those are our love interests. I don't know if there's more. I feel like there might be, but we might have also just covered it all. But yeah, that's the story. Basically, we may or may not be a changeling. Moved back into our town. Oh, also our character is like very fond of Pines Hollow. Like, she loves the nature. She loves the seclusion by the mountain. She loves everything about like she loves the forest, and like she loves fairy rings and stuff. So she, like, you know, and Spencer doesn't. Spencer hates it and us. We'll find out why eventually. Anyway, back to the program. I slammed my locker door and hefted my book bag to my shoulder.
Oh, hey.
I also saw what happened at lunch. Yeah, about that, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm not mad at anyone over that. Are you sure? Yeah, like I said, it wasn't a big deal. Okay, just don't take it personally, okay? Everyone here has their stories. Know what I mean? I suppose I should know better than anyone. And don't worry about people talking about you. I mean, they'll stop soon. Probably. Encouraging. Well, I couldn't complain. He was trying to cheer me up, and that was sweet. I'm sure they will. I rubbed my head and gave him another exhausted smile. I should go. The evil twin is probably already waiting impatiently for me. Okay, I have a club meeting I need to get to. I really hope you feel better. Have fun at your club. Okay, well, have fun at your club then. Maybe I should try to enter a club too. It's not really the sort of club you have fun at usually, but I'll try. He waved and darted off down the hall toward the stairwell. What sort of club isn't meant for fun? I wondered if the office had a list of clubs I could register for. Of course, I'd have to coordinate with Spencer or get a ride from someone, so I might want to wait until I was a little more settled in. But it might be nice to get involved in something during my last year. At any rate, I made my way outside, keeping an eye out for Spencer as I went. I wasn't looking forward to the drive home at all, but this time I'd just stay quiet. I don't think I can handle another argument today. My nerves were already pretty frayed. I jogged across the front lawn toward the parking lot in spite of my head. If anything, Spencer complaining that I'd made him wait would just make my headache worse anyway. I immediately spotted the car, and it looked like Spencer was already waiting. I picked up the pace. When I got home, I was just going to go upstairs and immediately crash and sleep. Wait, what is he doing? I was still at least 20 yards from him, so why was Spencer already backing out of the parking space? Does he not see me? I waved one arm as I ran, wondering if he thought I was getting a ride with Allie or something. I froze mid-wave as he pulled out of the space, looked right at me, and drove off. Are you kidding me? I very nearly threw my backpack on the ground and had a tantrum right there in full view of everyone. Yanking my phone out, I sent him a flurry of angry texts. What are you doing? You looked right at me. Hello? Are you coming back to get me? Stop ignoring me. 10 minutes later, there was still no answer. I tried calling twice, but he didn't pick up. Tears of frustration stung my eyes as I clutched my backpack so hard, the strap cut into my hand. He wasn't coming back. He just left me there while looking right at me. How could he do that? The parking lot was rapidly emptying, but I was not going to stand there and cry in front of everyone. No hit, just run! Thank you, North. Trembling with fury, I stormed away to find a place to calm down, think, and plot how I was going to murder my brother in his sleep. After, I figured out how I was going to get home. I could text Mom, but she and Dad were both at work. Grandma and Grandpa would be busy too. I flopped down under a tree near the back corner of the parking lot. Ali said she had a club meeting, so I didn't think she could give me a ride unless I waited for her to finish. I didn't know anyone else well enough to ask. I bit my lower lip hard and looked up quickly, trying to blink away the tears before they spilled over. But there was no one nearby, and unless someone walked right past me, I didn't think I'd be easily seen. I finally gave in and buried my face in my knees, sobbing quietly, half from anger and half from sheer disappointment. The whole day had just kind of sucked, and I felt stupid for being so glad to be back. Are you crying? Shoot. I looked up hastily, wiping at my face as I wondered who was crashing my little pity party.
You first.
Hang on. Hang on! He has a pointed ear and heterochromia! A super tall guy in a leather jacket was standing nearby looking down at me. I hadn't even heard him walk up. Big woof. I'm fine. I rubbed the back of my hand across my eyes, feeling pathetic. There was no way he'd believe I wasn't crying. Really? I nodded vigorously, but from his tone, it was obvious he knew it wasn't true. He scoffed. Whatever. He turned away and walked to a motorcycle parked nearby. There's our sixth guy. I knew there were 6 love interests. I can't believe someone caught me crying. How middle school of me. I watched him set the helmet on the seat and stow his backpack. I probably shouldn't have stared, but he was kind of rude, so I was going to stare all I wanted. If I was going to revert back to middle school with my behavior, I might as well take it all the way. He paused and glanced my way again. I watched him grab something and stalk back over. He tossed something square and rectangular to me. I barely managed to catch it. Achoo! Facial tissue! Tissues. Thanks. Okay. Maybe he's actually a nice guy. He shrugged. Is there a reason you're sitting back here crying? Ah, hell. Yes. Yes. Yes, there is. I glared up at him, daring him to try to pry further. He just looked sort of amused, but not at all intimidated. Hey guys, what do you think he is? He has pointed ears and heterochromia and freckles and long hair, and he's a biker.
The one that goes straight in front.
Anyway, I guess I couldn't blame him. How tall was he anyway? I was gonna strain my neck looking up at him, and he's also very tall. Thanks for the tissues, I mean, not for badgering me about crying. I wasn't badgering, I was asking, but it's not a problem. Ewan? Ewan? That sounds like I'm saying Aaron in a baby way. Ewan? Ewan, I guess. I'm Ewan, by the way. Oh, that's how you say it. Ewan? That is an interesting name, Ewan. Thank you, North. The game got it. The game told me. Amber. He just nodded and crouched next to me. I don't recognize you. Ewan. I'm new, sort of. I used to live here a few years ago, but I just moved back. You guessed right. Good job, North. I'm proud of you. Ah, you're that girl. I gave him a questioning look, but he just shrugged. I overheard some kids talking about a new girl, something about some disappearances a few years back. Again? That's me. I see. Well, you look more normal than I expected. What is that supposed to mean? Look who's talking! Hey, I was just about to leave. Are you waiting for a ride? Do you need a lift or something? Oh, I don't... my brother ditched me, so I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure out how to get home. I'll give you a ride if you don't mind riding a motorcycle. I haven't ridden one before. I'm not gonna force you. I bit my lip. I shouldn't accept a ride from someone I didn't know, but at the same time, I didn't know if anyone else could come get me. Whoa, get a ride with a biker, dude? Yeah? What the hell? Of course. Yeah, you know what? I'll take you up on that. I live out in Ravensglade. He almost smiled, but not quite. I live there too. He stood and helped me. Oh wait, we're playing as a lady, okay. He stood and helped pull me to my feet. Sorry, North. Dang, he was really tall. The top of my head barely reached his chin, and that was with heels. Why are you wearing, girl, heels at school?
Why do you know that?
That is exhausting. Okay. Pointed ears, heterochromia, and he's super tall. Those are his characteristics. Those are his fantasy giveaways. I have an extra helmet you can use. And his name is Yuan. Ewan. Oh, thanks. Mom would definitely kill me if I showed up on the back of a motorcycle with no helmet. Then she'd probably kill you too. She hates making people feel left out. That elicited a smirk. I'll keep it in mind. I watched him pull down 2 pegs on either side of the bike. I'm guessing my feet go there? His smirk grew wider as he tossed the helmet. You get an A+? That bit gets really hot, so don't touch it. Anything else? Hold on, lean when I lean, and try not to fall off. Simple and to the point. I like it. He climbed on the bike and patted the seat behind him as he put the helmet on. I climbed on carefully, mostly occupied with how I should hold on to him. That, and wondering why his helmet got a cool visor thing, but my face was bared for all the bugs in the world to splat onto. I hoped he didn't mind being my bug shield, because I was definitely going to hide my face behind him. Yuan? Is that you?
Straightforward from the spot.
Hold on, we're going. Right. I placed my hands awkwardly on his hips as he started the bike, and we were off.
Down, go to spot.
It was cold.
I see you.
It was already well into fall anyway, but it was so much colder on the back of a motorcycle. Fortunately, our neighborhood was fairly close to the school. I quickly found myself grateful he was so much bigger than me. In addition to shielding me from the bugs, he also blocked some of the wind. Not much, but I suspected it was colder sitting up front than behind. I just held onto him tightly and hoped the wind didn't permanently freeze my hands into his waist.
Go to spot.
That would have been awkward. 15 minutes and a short stop for specific directions later, and Ewan was pulling into my driveway. Spencer's car was there, but so was Dad's. By the time Ewan killed the engine, Dad was already on the front porch, eyes wide. I dismounted carefully, only narrowly avoiding falling on my butt. Did it? Oh no, Dad. Nice dismount. I'd give it an 8.5 for style. I'm not going to tell you to shut up, but only because you were nice enough to give me a off. Dad swept me into a bear hug that muffled the rest of that. Thank God, you weren't answering your phone. Well, I couldn't really. Oh, this is Yuan, a classmate. He gave me a ride. Dad offered his hand, though he didn't look too happy about the motorcycle. Yuan took his helmet off, shook Dad's hand, and gave him a surprisingly polite nod. It's nice to meet you, sir. He had that bad boy look about him, but I guess he wasn't actually that bad. North, what are you saying? It was kind of disappointing. Someone wearing that much leather really should have more attitude. Girl, thank you for giving her a ride. Oh, bad boy with a heart of gold and manners? I handed the helmet back to Ewan. Seriously, I really appreciate it. I'll treat you to a coffee or something sometime. Don't worry about it. I guess I'll see you at school. He nodded and put his helmet back on, waving once he started the bike. And with that, he was gone. Dad and I watched him in silence for a moment. You are so not treating him to coffee. Ever. Hey, he was nice enough to give me a ride. Saying of which, please tell my horrible brother is grounded. For a month, at least. Come on, you look like you're freezing. I'll make you some hot chocolate. I snuggled into his side as we went in together. All in all, it wasn't a completely horrible ending to the day. Chapter 3. Paranormal Mysteries Club. Interesting decision, Amber. It is the 12th. I was pretty sure I was dreaming the next day. It was the 11th yesterday. But it was cold and pitch black. There was no sound, no sensation. I tried to move, but it was as if the darkness was weighing me down. I tried to scream, but there was nothing. I couldn't hear the sound of my own voice. I couldn't even feel myself screaming. As I waited for any sign, any sound, or hint of light, I slowly became aware of the fact that I was running. The slow tingle of sensation began to creep back. My feet were crashing through what felt like underbrush. The cold prickle of wet pine needles jabbed into me as I ran. I have to find what? I didn't know. Inwardly, I screamed at myself to stop running. No, not yet, not yet! It was my voice speaking, but it wasn't me. I sounded raspy and weird. I didn't even know what I had meant by that. Finally, I came to a halt. My hand reached out to steady myself against something. I felt scratchy bark against my skin. The moment I touched it, reality came crashing back. Or rather, it felt like I went crashing from nothingness back into reality. I expected to wake up in my bed in a cold sweat, but when I came to, I was standing up. I wasn't even in my room, much less in my bed. I was in the middle of the woods, surrounded by trees on all sides. Panic rose in my throat. Did I do it again? That strange sensation of crashing back into reality was both eerily familiar and terrifyingly nostalgic. Whoa, the trickster! Oh my god.
No, go away.
Surprise, this is actually the trickster, and I've just been developing it ever since nationals. This is my work. This is all mine. It's not. I had felt it before. How long have I been gone this time? My heart was thudding uncomfortably only at night as I looked around and listened for search parties. It was probably stupid to immediately assume I'd been missing for weeks already, but it's not like it would have been unprecedented. There was only silence. I wasn't sure whether I should have been relieved or not, but at the very least, I must not have been gone long. Now what? It was dark, but cloudless. I was in a bit of a clearing, so the moon lit up my surroundings pretty well. I turned, trying to get my bearings. To my great relief, I saw the warm glow of lights through the trees only a short distance away.
No, stop trying. No,
Was I just sleepwalking or something? That had never happened before, especially not to the point that I ended up outside. I took a deep breath and started making my way back toward the lights.
I failed so badly. Immediately this.
It was freezing, and before I stopped to contemplate any major questions about the current situation, I needed to get back home. I would worry about the sudden sleepwalking problem after that. Something in the distance let out a long howl. A shiver crawled up my spine as I looked anxiously over my shoulder. Coyote, maybe? It was a ways off, but still too close for comfort. I carefully picked my way through a little gully, wincing as I found a blackberry vine I hadn't been looking for. Ow, ow, ow! It managed to wrap itself around both legs in no time. Thorns jabbed at my fingers as I tried to pry it off in the dark. The sudden crackle of underbrush off to one side immediately put my heart in my throat again. What was that? I strained to see into the shadows. It might have just been a deer, but this area did, apparently, have black bears. Not to mention things like cougars. Everything went silent again. I was thinking of making a break for the lights. They were maybe 40 yards away and up a little hill. I could make it. Suddenly, a shadow moved. I tried to make out the shape, but it was deep in the trees, beyond the moonlight. To my relief, it looked like it was moving away from me. But when it suddenly broke into a run... What? I was almost certain I'd glimpsed something person-shaped.
Alright, here, I'm gonna cheat you.
Someone else was out here too? But who? Were they watching me? Oh, come on. I'm not gonna be logical in a visual novel game about supernatural fantasy creatures. Are you kidding me? I'm gonna follow that dang shadow. I ripped myself from the blackberry vines with the thought of chasing the shadowy figure. It probably wasn't that smart, but I wasn't thinking clearly. I was outside at night and someone was stalking me. I wanted to know who it was and what was going on. I'd only gone a few feet before I realized that everything between me and that area was a sea of tangled blackberry vines. They were already snagging my pants, stabbing into my legs and feet. Ouch, 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 ouch! Thinking better of that decision, I retreated and decided to limp my way back up the gully toward the lights. Boo! Illusion of choice! Boo! I kept an eye out in case that figure came back, but they were nowhere to be seen. At the top of the gully, I realized I had been just below my house the entire time. No, the illusion of choice! The lights I'd seen were from Elliot's back porch. Thank goodness. The back gate had been left wide open. I must have come out through there. From the looks of it, I was right. I hadn't been gone long. The lights were still off inside. Fortunately, I woke up before I got too far away. I let myself back into the yard, quietly creeping to the house and into the partially open back door. It was so weird knowing I had to have come this way, but I didn't remember any of it. It wasn't like it was unusual for me, but I just could not afford to start the stuff up again. As I was shutting the door, I heard the sound of soft movement behind me. I spun around and startled Spencer. Spencer was there at the bottom of the stairs.
Here.
I could barely make his face out in the dim light from over the stove. What are you doing? I stepped out for some air. Couldn't sleep. I wasn't about to tell him I'd gone for a little sleepwalk in the woods at night. I padded across the kitchen and tried to get up the stairs, but Spencer blocked my way. That's all you were doing? Yeah, that's it. Can you let me go to my room? I'm freezing. Wait a second. I'd been doing the creepy sleepwalker thing and had to do some serious thinking about that. But what are you doing up? I heard you coming in. I thought it might be a burglar. Ah, well, it's not. Just me. And since I live here, could you please move? He didn't look like he wanted to, but he finally stepped aside and let me pass. It wasn't until I shut the door to my room that I realized Spencer had been fully dressed and wearing shoes. Why was he fully dressed if he got up when he heard me come in? Then again, maybe he'd thrown his clothes on when he thought he heard someone downstairs. No one wanted to confront a potential thief in a t-shirt and boxers. I assumed. But I was way too tired to dwell on that, and before I could go back to sleep, I had to pick the thorns out of my feet, then disinfect the numerous cuts and scrapes. That occupied me for far longer than I would have liked.
Oh, I made a mistake.
When I finally fell into bed, I didn't have any more answers about why I'd been outside than I did when I first woke up out there. And I wasn't sure if there was anything I could tell about it. Anyone I could tell about it. Not without kicking up a fuss. And I really, really didn't want that.
No.
Before bed last night, and before my nighttime escapades in the woods, Allie and I had texted quite a bit about my less than exemplary first day at school. She had casually informed me that she would be driving me there and back for the foreseeable future. Or, at least, until I got my own car. Fortunately, she lived in the same neighborhood, so it wouldn't really be an inconvenience for her to stop by. The only drawback was that she usually had to arrive early because she did extra credit work in the office. It was mostly just filing and such, but it meant she had to be there quite a bit before class started. Which meant I would have to loiter around the school with nothing to do for a little over half an hour. I wasn't going to complain though, it could have been worse. I had to admit that I was kind of annoyed Spencer basically won. He wouldn't have to drive me to school or put up with being anywhere near me anymore. But then Dad informed us that Spencer had lost car privileges for the next month. Dad would pick him up after school and drive him to the showroom for work, and the poor guy would have to catch the bus every morning. To add insult to injury, the car would sit unused the entire time since I'd be riding with Allie. She's not even going to be using it! Too bad. You left her at school. On purpose. I don't think you deserve to drive the car. I'm already going to be working for you for a month and doing all her chores. I get it. I'm sorry. I just had a bad day. That's not an excuse to leave your sister crying in the parking lot. They were already at it when I went downstairs. I tried to ignore it as I tried to ignore the fight as I ate breakfast. It wasn't easy, especially with the look Spencer kept giving me. He could not expect me to feel sorry for him. Coffee gone. I missed. There's absolutely no way I could feel sorry for him. I mean, he was my brother. And he was already being punished. I tried to ignore the part of me that wanted to defend him.
You. Now it's my turn.
No, we're gonna defend him. I hated myself for it, but I couldn't let him suffer. High ground!
You're gonna die.
Ah!
You're gonna die.
Hello?
You didn't tag me.
The heck?
You touched the
How
wall.
do I look back at my... Oh well. I missed what that said. They both looked at me in surprise. I couldn't blame them. My defending him was probably the last thing they'd expected. Yesterday you were pretty eager to see Spencer punished. Well, yesterday I was still mad, and I do think he deserves the work he's getting. Because that was a lousy thing to do, Spencer. aside and gave up on breakfast, pushing my plate away. But, I mean, there's no point in the car just sitting there. It's cold, so it'll probably sap the battery. And that'll be a pain, and just... I don't know. He's going to suffer enough having to put up with you and Grandpa in the same room with each other every afternoon. She's not wrong. Thank you, Courtney. That's helpful. I try. Are you sure about this, Amber? I mean, you're the one he left there. I shrugged. It sucked, but it wasn't worth this. My brother is so loud. Besides, there was a part of me that just didn't want to deal with him being even angrier at me than he already was. I'm fine with it. Just let him use it. Dad mulled it over for a long time. If she's okay with it, why not let him use the car? It'll be a burden for everyone if you have to pick him up every day for a month. Fine. The driving part of your sentence is revoked, but the chores and work at the showroom stand. Spencer looked enormously relieved. He grabbed his books off the counter and immediately headed out the door. But he paused as he passed by the table. For the first time in a really, really long time, I felt his hand ruffling my hair. I looked up in surprise to see him giving me a really sad look. Thanks. And he was gone. I was kind of stunned. I was just rinsing my breakfast dishes when I heard Allie honking. Moments later, I ran out the door, still trying to pull on my jacket. So I was thinking, a dangerous pastime? I'm not playing. Anyway, I was thinking that you should join my club. The one you were at yesterday? Man, it's so much nicer to ride with someone who wasn't ignoring me. Yep, there are only a few girls in it. The only one who really shows up frequently is, well, she's kind of a bit catty. Oh god, don't tell me it's Kara. No. So you want me to join a club and deal with some other catty girl? I want you to keep me company. You'd fit in great. Give it a try, please. In any case, if you're waiting for me to finish up every day, you might as well just join it instead of sitting around. Okay, that's a fair point. What is this club anyway? Paranormal Mysteries Club. I stared at her. The first things that came to mind when I thought of the paranormal were UFOs, phone physics, and those cheesy websites with articles about Atlantis and dinosaurs living in the Amazon. Really? It's actually really fun. I eyed her skeptically, but sure it was fun if you were into that kind of... I eyed her skeptically. I was sure it was fun if you were into that kind of thing, but I couldn't imagine her believing that stuff. So what, you research Bigfoot or something? Do ghost hunts? Look for aliens? Well, not exactly, but you'll find out if you stop by. I promise you'll have fun. Oh, those two guys you live next door to, Elliot and Danny, they're both in it. Seriously? I didn't think either of them would be into that sort of thing. I tried to imagine Danny getting excited over blurry videos of someone in an ape suit. It didn't compute. You'd be surprised. Just think about it, okay? It might not hurt to give it a try, I guess. Allie let out her characteristic squeal of excitement. It would be really annoying if it wasn't so completely adorable. When we reached the school, Allie went to help in the office. I decided to stop by my locker before going to the library to read for a while. It was definitely still pretty early. There was almost no one around as I opened my locker door to grab my trig and chemistry books. No, at least he's having fun. I really hoped that things would go more smoothly than the day before. Yesterday morning had only been okay because the stories hadn't spread that far yet, but by now, everyone had heard them. I heard a soft sigh and turned around immediately, expecting to see someone behind me waiting for me to get out of their way. There was no one there!
I'm stuck.
Okay!
I'm stuck.
I looked up and down the hall, but there is no one in sight. Okay, that was weird. I definitely heard something. No, that was me. Chewing my lip, I shut my locker door, still listening. Maybe it was a draft of some kind, but it really had sounded like a person. Shook my head and took a deep breath. It was probably just my imagination. I was on edge because of yesterday and last night, that was all. I headed for the school library. I wonder what sort of things they really do in the Paranormal Mysteries Club. Elliot said it was fun. When I got to the librarian was nowhere to be found, so I hid in a corner and read until the first bell rang. After that, I basically spent the morning thinking about Allie's club. She'd said Danny and Elliot were in it, but I didn't sit close enough to either of them in order to ask about it. Do we get to see the cute guy? The only interesting thing about Trig was Corvin managing to fall into a knee-high wastebasket. Literally how? Chemistry was boring. No, we don't get to see William! Everyone had quickly realized Spencer would not engage, which meant they directed all questions at me. So I told them I'd been kidnapped by Bigfoot and Elvis. I couldn't wait until that rumor got around the school, and I really hoped Kara enjoyed it. As soon as I reached the cafeteria, Danny ambushed me and insisted I have lunch with his group. Since it was better than eating alone, I didn't argue. Elliot was already waving at us from the table across the room, which made it even more impossible to say no. Danny led me over to where he and a few others were sitting. So everyone, this is Amber. I shifted uncomfortably as all eyes were suddenly on me. Oh, the new girl everyone's talking about? Well, she is new anyway.
Try to get me.
You sitting here today, Amber? Yeah, looks like it. I was relieved that no one argued. They just moved their chairs around so I could sit sandwiched between Danny and Elliot. So, how do you know Danny? I looked over at the girl talking. I had no idea what her name was, but she had a nice smile. Well, I moved in next door. Oh, so your neighbors then? I nodded. Yep, that's what moving in next door meant, pretty much. Hello. The boy who spoke leaned across the table and grinned. So all the things people are saying about you, are they true? James, come on, man. I was just asking. It's fine. And like I've told everyone so far, no, most of the things being said or speculated are not true. I really did get lost in the woods. I really don't remember it. My brother really was attacked by what we think was probably a cougar or something while out looking for me. Yes, he injured one of his eyes. No, they're not sure how. It's actually nowhere near as mysterious as people tried to make it out to be. It was just sensationalized at the time. All that happened was that I got lost and Spencer somehow hurt his eye. So, you really didn't see a murder in the woods? Raina? I think that's about as likely as encountering Sasquatch. Maybe it was a serial killing Sasquatch. I liked her. Well, aliens are also a popular theory. Serial killing alien Sasquatch? Now that's just crazy talk.
I just died.
Everyone laughed and I was just relieved the conversation didn't seem like it was going to be the usual interrogation. Oh, Elliot, man, I read about something yesterday that your club should totally investigate. Oh? Bat Squatch. Bat Squatch? You know, like giant bats. He gestured wildly as he started explaining the supposed creature to Elliot. I tuned him out and turned to Danny. So, I don't see Allie anywhere. I didn't see her yesterday either. Do you know if she eats somewhere else? Allie? Yeah, I don't think she eats in the cafeteria. Huh, I see. That was disappointing. I guess it meant I couldn't even have lunch with her. I wondered where she did eat. Maybe with the teachers or something? Though I couldn't imagine that would be fun. But even if she wasn't around, Danny's friends weren't too bad. They were rowdy, but really nice. I didn't usually like crowds much, but after yesterday, it was a nice change of pace to be surrounded by friendly people. Speaking of the club, Allie mentioned she invited you to join it. Oh, yeah. Well, haven't made your mind up about it? Well, I mean, I glanced back at James dubiously as he tried to convince Elliot that Bat Squatch was a viable topic of study for the club. Do you really study things like that? Danny just laughed. No, not really. We do look into the paranormal, but I suppose it's a little more mainstream than Bat Squatch. Mainstream. I wondered if that was more along the lines of ghosts and ESP instead of UFOs and unlikely mammals. There are a lot of stories that have much more solid foundation beneath them than Bat Squatch. You don't think that maybe some folklore has a seed of truth to it? I guess it depends on the folklore. I mean, if you take something like the vampires of Europe, a lot of people think that certain historical figures might have inspired some of those tales with their less than savory behavior. But if you're suggesting that the seed of truth is supernatural in origin, I'm not sure about that. But it does make for a potentially interesting study topic, right? I suppose it might. If Allie invited you, then you should consider taking her up on it. It might be nice to have a new member. No, seriously, we'd love to have a new member. Hey, that's not fair. I tried to join too, you know, and your president kept avoiding me until I finally ended up joining something else, and now my schedule's too full. I thought you didn't join because the club room creeped you out. That's not it. I mean, it is kind of creepy though.
That's my only way to get to you.
Gotta run. Okay. Bye, Gwen. Thanks for stopping by. I didn't even think the Mysteries Club accepted new members. Everyone I know who thought about joining ended up not doing it. We take new members sometimes. I think people often just decide they don't have time for it. Huh. Now they're making me kind of curious. And Danny's description actually did sound kind of interesting. At the very least, it was different from what I'd first imagined. I mulled it over for the rest of lunch, wondering just what kind of club it really was. By the time school let out, I was actually in a pretty good mood. As a bonus, the day had only had a few mildly annoying moments, as opposed to the whole thing basically sucking. I was relieved by that, for sure. Ali showed up at my class to get me, waiting by the door while I shoved all my stuff in my book bag. We made a quick pit stop, by my locker before she insisted on taking me up to the 4th floor to see the club. So, did you make up your mind yet? I mean, about trying out the club. You will, right? Oh, I mean, you're kind of hurting me that way regardless. Yep. It's not like you have anything else to do. That's true. I'll just take a peek, okay? Alright, I'm sure you'll like it. Ooh, new setting! At the bottom of the stairs, I paused and looked up. I'd been to the 2nd and 3rd floors, but never the 4th. I'd heard it had a bunch of empty classes. Even when I was here in middle school, everyone had said it was haunted. We started up together. Are all the high school clubs up on the 4th floor? No, there are only about 5 others besides us. A lot of people prefer to use classrooms on the lower floors. Apparently, it's creepy up here. I have heard of that. Yeah, that's kind of terrifying. Why is it dark? I stopped at the top of the stairs, shivering slightly as I looked down the long hallway. It looked just like the one downstairs, but I had to admit the atmosphere was different. Maybe it was because most of the lights were off. Or maybe the air was just stuffy because no one really used the space much. It really did feel different though. Come on! Ali took my arm and pulled me down the hall toward one of the open classrooms. I stopped outside and peered in. No one else was there. The club room itself looked pretty boring, actually. I was surprised, especially after hearing how creepy people found it. Instead, it just looked like a really normal, empty classroom. It wasn't creepy at all. It looks kind of mundane, right? Out of nowhere, Ali practically shoved me through the door, and something happened. What? So, what do you think? It looks... What? It looks a lot bigger when you're inside it, doesn't it? I stared at her slack-jawed. She had the most infuriatingly smug look on her face. Bigger? Yeah, it looks bigger and completely different. Where did all this stuff come from? I looked at the hallway. It looked as normal as ever. But the classroom was now brimming with furniture and decorations that had definitely not been in there when I first looked in. I rubbed at my eyes, though I'm not sure what I expected that to do. Was I dreaming? No, I mean, obviously I wasn't. But how? I shook my head and walked back out into the hall. It looks totally normal from out here. Ali? I couldn't see her anymore either. I burst back into classroom and there she was again, along with all the decor and furniture. Whoa. I don't understand. What is going on? My head was spinning as I tried to work this out. Mirrors or something? It had to be mirrors or something, right? I knew you were one of us. She grabbed my hands and squeezed them, grinning at me happily. Whoa, whoa, back up. One of us what? A paranormal, or cryptic. Some refer to us as supernaturals as well. All my friends are supernatural. Ali was supernatural too. Caught me off guard. This also means we're definitely a changeling. Anyway, what? Mark? You sound uncertain. Wait, had he been there the whole time? He was standing in the corner by a large bookshelf, a book in hand, as he glared at me with the usual disdain. No, I know it's you, I just have no clue what's going on here. He shot Ali a strange look and huffed an annoyed sigh as he snapped the book shut. She's probably still awakening, but I mean, she's obviously one of us. She's here, right? If she wasn't one of us, she wouldn't be able to see the club room. I studied Ali worriedly. Ali, you're kind of starting to creep me out. Why do you keep saying one of us like I've just been inducted into some sort of creepy cult? Also, paranormal? Cryptic? Okay, calm down. Take some deep breaths before your blood pressure gets dangerously high. I know this is confusing, but I can explain. Very amusing. I don't want to take deep breaths. I want to know what's going on. Okay, well, You're a logical person. Just put 2 and 2 together. Clearly, this isn't a normal classroom, right? Well, yeah. There are 2 possible ways to explain what you've experienced. Science or magic, right? Science wasn't my forte for sure, but magic? I think I need to sit down. Ali helped me to the nearest sofa and Mark produced a glass of water from somewhere. For all I knew, he pulled it out of a hat. My head was spinning like crazy. Magic? Ali was not trying to tell me that this was some kind of magic room. Was she? Or even before that, was she trying to tell me that magic was real? Feeling better? Not really. Ali just laughed. I glared at her. This was not a laughing matter. I was having a crisis. Are you telling me that magic is a thing? A real thing? A thing that actually exists in a real, practical way? Yes. And this room is magical. Yep. And I'm magical. Most likely. I stared at the door. I could see the hallway outside. It looked perfectly normal. There was nothing near the door that could explain what happened when I entered. No visible mirrors, cameras, or projectors. Heck, I couldn't even come up with a way it would be possible to do something like that with projectors and cameras. I took a deep breath and let it out slowly. At lunch, someone said that this club doesn't take new members much. This is a club specifically for the supernatural members of the student's body. Obviously, normal humans can't be permitted to enter. Typical humans can't see this room, not as it is. As you noticed, from the outside, it looks like a normal, empty classroom. From the inside, it still looks like a normal, empty classroom to normal people. In fact, the spell on this place actually repulses normal people, so they don't even want to enter it. A spell? Like, a magic spell? Yep. Is this how Alice felt when she fell down the rabbit hole? Actually, I was pretty sure Alice handled that way better than I was handling this. I took a deep breath as I listened to Ali's explanation. The spell is designed to protect the club from discovery. It can alter memories, perception, or even the room's location if it needs to. All toward that end. I was still trying to get my head around all this. I mean, logically, I knew none of this could be true, but here was Ali, someone I trusted and knew was down to earth, and she was telling me this was real. And maybe it was a prank, but I really didn't think Mark was the sort to play pranks. Based on our meeting the previous day, I was almost certain he didn't have a sense of humor, and Ali wouldn't do something like this to me. Not today. I looked up at her and she patted my hand gently. So I can see this room because I'm not normal. That's correct. What about you? Well, I'm a witch. The magic-using kind. I tilted my head slightly. Oh, okay. I actually hadn't expected that answer.
4, 3.
Not sure what I did expect, though.
Like 5 seconds
Okay,
later.
let's assume for a moment that instead of thinking you're just insane, I believe you. How did you know I was, what did you say, cryptid? I mean, you invited me to the club this morning, so you already knew, right? Cryptic is the word you're looking for. We're not animals. Cryptids are creatures that can't be proven with science, but cryptic is just a name some people adopted for us. It's shorter to say than paranormal or supernatural, so a lot of us go with it. Excuse me. Hey, unless there's a test on it, I'm not interested in vocabulary at the moment. Excuse me. Is she always this sarcastic? Usually. It's worse when she's upset. It's sort of like a litmus you can use to tell how close she is to having a complete freakout. Ah, I see. I'm right here, and what I'm interested in is how you knew I was a cryptic, or at least what you thought I was. Blood pressure. Ali! Okay, calm down. The reason I knew was because of Corvin. When he looked deep into my eyes. Corvin? What does he have to do with it? Remember that book he dropped? Yeah, that weird, creepy one?
Give me that bag. Got it.
It wasn't just a book, it was a grimoire. Pretty boy. Corbin was standing at the door as if he'd just come inside. Man, if this was a prank, they were really going all out. But at this point, I had a feeling that hoping it was just a prank was pointless. Mark's lack of funny bone aside, Ali didn't look like she was joking. And it's not creepy, by the way. Don't call someone's grimoire creepy. Hey, Cor. So we were right about your friend? Well, you can see for yourself. Welcome to the Paranormal Mysteries Club. Amber, right? As usual, he was pretty bubbly. He waved at me from across the room. Did you say it was a grimoire? Like, a magic book? That's right, the normal people can't see it. So, when you so kindly wanted to pick it up for me, I knew you couldn't be a normal human. Thank you, by the way. That was nice of you. If I'm not normal, then what am I? A witch or something? And does this mean that Spencer is magic too? Because I really don't think letting him have magic is a good plan. Who's Spencer? My brother. My very paranoid, emotionally delicate brother. While I was speaking, Corvin wandered over and sat on the table next to the sofa, and immediately overturned the glass of water Mark had given me. He jumped back up as a cascade of water ran down his pants and down the arm of the couch onto my lap. Sorry. I was still too shocked by the whole magic thing to even react. Sorry, I'm sorry. Ugh. Sorry? He looked around, presumably for something to wipe the water up with. I just sat there, staring at my soaked jeans dumbly. Ellie, perhaps you could. Don't worry, I've got it. Annoying as that was, this should prove it to you, Amber. She flicked her hands toward me in a strange circular motion and chanted something under her breath. Ooh, wah. I felt an undeniable wave of warm air and looked down to find that my clothes were completely dry, as was the sofa. I patted my hands over my legs in wonder. There was no sign that they'd been soaked through only moments before. Whoa. That even dried my underwear. Creepy. Really, Allie? Come on. His pants were still soaked all down the front. Maybe if you'd learned to actually read the mood for a change. It wasn't on purpose. Help a guy out. Air magic really isn't my forte. He's an air... I'm gonna call him an air genasi because I don't know what else to call him, but air magic user. Or no, he has a grimoire, so he's just a wizard or something. Corvin made his best attempt at sad puppy eyes. Ellie sighed and rolled her eyes before repeating the hand gesture and chanting she'd previously aimed at me. This time I saw something. It was kind of hard to describe. The air around Corvin seemed to ripple and the water was suddenly just gone. This is real, isn't it? Elliot turned back to me. I knew I was gawking up at her, but I couldn't help it. I mean, none of this was possible. Except I was watching it happen. No mirrors, no tricks. This was the real thing.
What do you mean? Why would I?
Oh my god. You're telling me that I can learn to do that kind of thing? Now that we don't know. There are a lot of different types of cryptics, not all of which have inherent magic, and we don't really know what type you are. There are many that are non-human. Wait, if I'm some kind of not human thing, what about my family? You're saying my parents have basically been lying to me all this time? Not necessarily. Someone can be a cryptic without their family knowing. For instance, if they were infected by something that changed them. Like zombies? No, like vampirism or lycanthropy. I'm not a vampire. Wait, vampire? No, you are most certainly not a vampire. Why are you saying that in such a snooty way, mister? But infection isn't the only way for humans to acquire supernatural abilities. Aside from being born with innate magic, there are lots of reasons humans develop powers. Being descended from paranormal creatures is one reason, like having Fae or Elvish blood somewhere in your lineage. Elves? If you did, there's a good chance your parents wouldn't even know, depending how far back it was, and Fae blood can lie dormant for generations before rearing its head again. He was talking to me about elves. I gripped my forehead tightly. I could almost feel my brain being crushed under the weight of all this. What everyone is trying to get at is that there are lots of possibilities. If you've never demonstrated magic before, it's probably just developing right now. And probably for reasons similar to what Corvin just stated. So now you're telling me I'm not even human? I'm a fairy or something? Calm down. No one is saying that. We don't know anything for certain just yet. There are ways to find out though. Some of them just take time. I don't think I want to join this or be a part of this. I mean, suddenly being not even human, it just feels gross just thinking of the idea that I wasn't even what I thought I was my whole life. I didn't like it. I caught that look the three of them shared. What is it? It's just that you don't really get a choice. What? Just listen. If you think about it logically, people like us can pose a huge threat to human society, if not because we have unusual abilities, then because by not keeping this secret, we could disrupt things. There are other reasons as well, but those are the primary ones. As you can imagine, there are organizations in place to govern people like us, since normal law enforcement can't really do it. organizations like government organizations that keep track of cryptics. So now that part of the reason this club exists is because we kind of help keep an eye on the cryptics in the school and town as a whole. You mean there's more than just... Wait, Danny and Elliot are in this club. That's right. So they're also cryptics, and there are quite a few others. Once we discover someone new, we're obligated to report them and bring them into the club. The cryptic registration office lets students register through us because it's less stressful than having to go to the local agency. But people who don't cooperate with us have to deal with them directly. It's way better to deal with us. I mean, they're not dangerous or anything, but still. The agency is definitely full of weirdos. You don't want to meet them anytime soon. So I don't get a choice at all. Look, it sounds scary. Planes. Look, it all sounds scary, but it's not. Your world is about to become really amazing. And think about it this way. What happened to you and Spencer kids may be connected to this. That wasn't entirely implausible, actually. Remember when we were little, you and Spencer used to always tell me about the things you saw out in the woods. We were just playing, though. Were you?
Just me, no.
I ran my hand over my face thinking about that. It was so long ago. My memories were understandably fuzzy. I remembered that Spencer and I had imaginary friends. Sometimes they would come and talk to me at night, and... Was it possible all of that was actually real? Then, when I vanished, when Spencer was attacked, the things he said back then, we can help you research that. Maybe find some answers. Maybe find a way to help Spencer and fix whatever broke there. You really think I could do that? Sure. If you learn about yourself, surely you'll learn something about your twin as well. You said my family might not be cryptics, though.
How are you not gonna...
Even if I'm a cryptic, that doesn't mean my family is. That's right, cryptics have weird genetic quirks. Like I said, with certain types of lineage, it's possible that no one will have even the slightest affinity for magic, or exhibit any cryptic traits for decades. Then it suddenly pops up again, in one person, in one generation as strong as when it was first injected into the bloodline. That's why something like that might be more probable for you than just spontaneously developing magic, though that does happen too, rarely. So that means it's just me. I'm the only one that's different. Not necessarily. You are twins after all. It's just that, given his personality, we might want to approach him more cautiously. This is all way too much. I stood up and gave Allie a shaky smile. I think I need some fresh air. Amber, just for a few minutes, please? I just can't absorb all this at once. I stepped around Mark and Corbin, heading for the door. The room felt like it was closing in around me. I had to get out of there and get back to reality for a few minutes. I could contemplate the implications of all this in a place that didn't make me feel like I'd been carted off by a tornado to some strange place and should expect singing munchkins to appear soon. I didn't even know where I was going. Just out. Just away from here. Someone stepped through the doorway just as I tried to leave. Can you please... My words trailed off to a terrified squeak when I looked up at the boy I was speaking to. He had no... My vision blurred and my entire field of vision narrowed in on the empty space above his shoulders and the gaping hole where his neck should connect to his head. Stunned, I turned back to Allie, though I don't know what I intended to say. My airways constricted and for a moment I forgot how to breathe. My knees started to go all wobbly and I knew I was about to hit the floor. Amber, I think I'm going to pass out now. And with that, everything went black. Chapter 4, Under the Bridge. I was probably out for no more than a few minutes. When I started to come to, I realized I must be lying on the sofa. I could hear the others arguing. You could have at least tried to catch her. My hands were full, as you might have noticed. Brenna, it's not funny. His hands are full. Mark, couldn't you have reached her before she hit the floor? Ah, they're talking about me. I didn't see a need. I highly doubt a fall from that height would seriously harm her in the first place. Are you calling her short? I have to warn you, she's always hated that. That jerk. I'm not short, I'm just a little vertically impaired. I groaned and tried to open my eyes so I could tell him off. Ember, are you okay? The first face I saw was Corvin's, looming over me, looking concerned. Easy, you don't want to move around too fast just yet. I thought I saw... You did see it. I bolted upright. It was me. Sorry, I didn't know a newbie was in the club or I would have stayed away. I stared up at him. His head was where it should be. Thank God. Oh, I didn't recognize you without a head. That does make things difficult. The unfamiliar black-haired girl was still laughing. I didn't find the situation at all funny, to be honest. I don't think we've met. The girl bounded across the room, pushed Corvin out of the way, and bounced onto the sofa right next to me. She had no concept of personal space. She was practically sitting on top of me. Brenna, that was on my foot. So you're the new girl. She looked up and down, almost as if sizing me up. She was pretty, but her gaze made me feel really uncomfortable. She leaned in really close, staring into my eyes. A deep frown creased her brow. I stood carefully just to give myself some space to breathe. Corvin stood too, reaching out to steady me when I swayed slightly on my feet. Are you okay? I'm just trying to work out at what point I fell down the rabbit hole so I can maybe climb back out. Excuse me. Corvin patted my shoulder gently. Maybe Allie should take you home now. I don't think we really made this very easy on you today. It's been a while since we had a new member in your exact position. Yeah, the trick with the headless boy blocking the doorway isn't one I recommend for new members.
I'm joining.
Funny. Come on, Amber. Core's right. Probably best to get you out of here for a while. I didn't argue. I definitely had enough of the Paranormal Mysteries Club for one day. Allie led me out of the room and I just followed immediately, still in a daze. The moment I stepped into the hall, the voices of the others completely faded away. I looked back once, but all I saw was an empty classroom. How does that... I mean, if someone sees us walk out of there or something... Like I said earlier, the spell is designed to do what it takes to protect the secret. It can alter perception or even memories to ensure that no one notices anything. I see. I know, it's a lot. I'm sorry. If I could have warned you, I would have. Please don't be mad at me. The more I thought about it, the more I realized she probably couldn't have done things differently. It's not like I'd have believed her. She told me the truth during the drive to school. As much as I wanted to, I couldn't really fault her there. It's not your fault, okay? I just feel a bit overwhelmed. That's understandable. I'm sorry I freaked out. I'm sorry we scared you. She put her arm around my shoulders as we headed toward the stairs. We didn't say much for the rest of the walk to the car.
Unless someone else moved demon. No, put demon difference. You don't
Right as Allie was about to get in on the driver's side, I stopped. This is all real, isn't it? I'm not crazy. It's real, and you're not crazy. At least no more than you were yesterday. Cute. After you've had time to process it, it'll probably seem a lot less scary. In the end, despite everything, we're all pretty much just normal high schoolers. Someone was walking around without a head! In what universe does that constitute a normal high schooler? She just laughed slightly and motioned toward the car. Come on. Was it like this for you? I mean, when you found out you were a witch? I guess it wasn't so sudden. I started seeing things, weird things at first. I thought I was going completely bonkers and I was afraid to tell anyone, especially Mom and Dad. Mom is busy with her research and Dad is busy with the company. I didn't think either of them needed to deal with their daughter losing her mind. She gave me a long, serious look. I tried to deal with it alone for months. You, at least, have the rest of us. It'll make a big difference. I managed to get myself into some serious trouble. There are a lot of pitfalls in this world if you don't know they're there. Normally we help educate people and get them to read up and learn things on their own so they know what to expect. I didn't have anyone to do that for me though. I nearly died. The magic went completely haywire, but this one particular wizard helped me. He introduced me to everyone else and I realized I wasn't alone. When did all this happen? You never said a thing. Well, I mean, of course you didn't. Texting me with, hey, I'm a witch was probably the last thing on your mind, but I wish I'd been there for her. I was freaking out as it was. I couldn't imagine dealing with all of it completely alone. No support. Even if I couldn't have known what she was dealing with, I felt like a really crappy best friend. It was almost 3 years ago. No need to worry about it now. Of course, now that you do know, you better be prepared for all the rants about magic and every witchy thing, like brooms. People actually ride them. I cannot for the life of me figure out how they manage it. Having a stick jammed between your legs is the most uncomfortable thing ever. I couldn't deny that it sounded uncomfortable when she put it that way. And rather suspicious, to be honest. Haven't quite gotten the hang of it, then? Yeah, no, definitely not. We had a good laugh over that, and I found myself so relieved that Allie was, well, still Allie. I knew her crazy secret, but it felt like nothing changed except the topic of conversation. That was comforting. She dropped me at my house, promising she'd text to check on me. After the drive and a hot shower, I was able to put things into perspective. Millions of people dreamed of something magical happening to them. And here I was, having it actually happen to me. Okay, I could do without the headless fellow club member thing. That was creepy. Why is he headless anyway? And the thought of being a fairy or something was just outright weird and still uncomfortable. But it was still kind of cool in a way. I went to bed, promising myself to have a more open mind the next day. The next morning, I woke early and texted Elliot that I'd meet her down by the neighborhood entrance instead of at my house. I thought a morning walk would help clear my head and get me prepared for the crazy that awaited me at school. And I was kind of worried about facing Mom and being able to act normal. She always had the weirdest knack for figuring out when something was bothering me. I still needed time to get my head around all this before trying to work out how to successfully keep it from my family. Especially Spencer. I couldn't deal with him while this was hanging over me. I'm gonna save. I just quickly said I wanted to take a walk before school and slipped away while Mom was getting ready for work. It was noticeably colder than it had been the day before. Well, it was the middle of October after all. In a couple weeks, we'd already be into November. I really want to eat my peas, but I can't, like, eat and do this at the same time. The leaves were all just waiting for a good fall storm to come and knock them down. I adjusted the strap of my book bag and tipped my head up, taking a long, deep breath of cool air. Walking in the morning sun made yesterday afternoon seem even further away. Everything was just normal. The world looked like it had always had.
We need wood.
And yesterday was seeming more like a weird dream.
Yeah.
It was hard to brace myself for something that didn't even feel real yet. I shook my head slightly and kept walking. Ahead of me was a little creek and a bridge that went over it.
Give me all your wood.
It's so cool. I'd been wanting to take some reference shots, though I didn't think I had time. It might not hurt, at least, to stop and get some ideas for angles, though. I had to drive by there to get to the entrance anyway, so it's not like I'd miss her. I slowed my steps as I reached the start of the bridge, peering down to where the creek turned away and vanished into the trees. Pretty. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to take 1 or 2 photos while I was there. I reached into my bag to find my phone. Come by, come by. I paused, tipping my head to the side. Was that a voice? I stood still and listened. Sure enough, there was a faint voice muttering in raspy sing-song. It sounded like it was coming from under the bridge. Currants and gooseberries, bright fire like barberries, figs to fill your mouth, citrons from the south, sweet to tongue and sound, I come by, come by. Someone really is under there. The creepy voice, which continued to sing, conjured images from every old fairy tale I'd ever read. Still, I wonder if it's a homeless person. If I listened carefully, I could hear them puttering around down there as they hummed. It was awfully cold for someone to be staying under the bridge. I bet the neighborhood association would have a heart attack too. I probably shouldn't look. I didn't really want to look. But, I mean, whoever it was couldn't just stay under there. It would probably be best to let someone know so they could help them find a more reasonable shelter. I found myself carefully picking my way down the embankment, one hand on the lower edge of the bridge to steady myself. The voice stopped the moment my feet started crunching through the dried leaves. Shoot, what if it's someone dangerous? My heart was in my throat as I carefully peeked under the bridge. I expected just a craggy old man in dirty clothes. Instead, I came face to face with an impossibly large moss green eyes and a mouth as wide as my head, giving me a toothy smile. I froze. The eyes blinked. I blinked. Whatever it was reached toward me with a gnarled hand. I let out a shriek and staggered backwards. You're back! You came back! Creaky joints unfolded and huge feet shuffled toward me. The thing was massive, much bigger than I'd realized at first.
Wait a minute.
I tried to scramble away. Come with me!
Okay.
I'll help! I know how to help!
No, we need a...
I threw my book back at the creature's face and tried to run up the slippery embankment. A clammy hand clamped around my wrist, pulling me back toward the creek. I screamed again, desperately trying to pry the fingers off. Let go! Let go! Its grip tightened and it chuckled with that rusty voice. Come away! Come! I looked back, terrified as it dragged me down the creek bank. Suddenly, there was a heavy weight against my back and 2 soft hands covered my eyes. Don't look. Who's speaking? Don't look, you mustn't look at goblin men. That's what the old poems say, isn't it? The whispered voice sounded familiar. That girl from the club yesterday? What's her name? Brenna? Help! Come on now, let her go.
Wait, how much stuff do you have?
There was a soft, menacing hiss next to my ear, and suddenly my wrist was free. I tore myself away from Brenna and, nearly in tears, scrambled back toward the bridge. I clawed my way up the side of the embankment and bolted for the entrance, my heart still in my throat. As my feet pounded against the pavement, I heard a hoarse, raspy voice rustling after me, but this time I couldn't make out the words. By the time I reached the entrance, I was completely out of breath. I kept looking over my shoulder, expecting to see that thing clambering up the road for me, but neither it nor Brenna was anywhere in sight. What was that? A few minutes later, I saw Allie's car crest the hill and come quickly toward me. I sagged with relief, barely waiting for her to stop completely before climbing in. What's wrong? I swear I could never hide anything from her. There was something under the bridge. Ellie glanced in the rearview mirror. Something... I shook my head, still trying to catch my breath. Just go, please. My voice was completely hoarse. I wondered if anyone heard me screaming. And what had Brenna been doing there? I suppose I shouldn't question that. She definitely saved me. Allie and I drove in silence, but she kept giving me sidelong looks. I kept checking behind us, just in case. Allie was nice enough to wait until I calmed down before asking about it, and that was just about when we reached the school. Okay, now tell me? I don't know. I was going over the bridge and I heard a voice. I shouldn't have looked. I definitely should not have looked. What was it? I'm not sure. It looked vaguely person-shaped, but it had huge teeth and eyes. It tried to grab me. I pulled up the sleeve of my jacket and showed her the distinctly hand-shaped mark on my forearm. Whoa, you okay? I nodded. Come on, let's go up to the clubroom. I don't want to sit out here in the cold. I just nodded again and followed her as she started into the school. How'd you manage to get away from it? She was speaking quietly, but there was no one around to hear us anyway. Brenna actually showed up and helped. Brenna did? Why? She just doesn't usually get involved in things unless she has to. I guess that does kind of narrow down what it could have been, though. How so? Well, normally something like that could have just been about anything. There are tons of nature spirits, elementals, ghosts that lurk about. But Brenna typically doesn't take an interest in things unless it involves the Fae. Why is that? Well, she is one. A fairy, that is. I'm just glad she was there. It was trying to drag me into the woods. For the time being, I think it would be best if you don't go checking out any more voices until you've learned a little more about this world. Especially this time of year. This time of year? There's always a peak of activity in the paranormal community before Halloween and Samhain. It's best to be a little cautious this time of year. No more checking out weird voices, and until you've learned a little more about what to expect and what to avoid, no more walks by yourself. I could definitely agree with that. I looked at my forearm again. It was going all motley and purple. It was definitely going to bruise. Come on, let's go up. You can stay in the clubroom until you calm down and feel better, okay? What about class? Well, we're given a little more lenience when it comes to being late. I mean, a lot of the teachers are cryptics, you know? We can... What? We could get you a late pass. What? The principal, too. Has that always been the case? Well, you didn't think there would be a club of paranormal and magic people in the school without the staff knowing, did you? The truth is, there are a lot of places that are sort of hubs for the supernatural community. This town is like that. There are a lot of us here. So the school is definitely a bit of a haven for people like us. Walking into the clubroom wasn't quite as weird, as yesterday. At the very least, this time, the weird shift from reality to not reality was less jarring. I went straight to the sofa and flopped down face first into a throw pillow. Is it always like this? Well, yes and no. I mean, it's always pretty wild, but you quickly learn how to handle it all. When to stick your nose in and when to stay out of things. Here. I looked up as to see her holding a bottle of water for me. I took it from her as she sat down.
No, I checked your bags. There was nothing but rocks and crowbars.
Here's the plan. I think you should go to the library and do some reading. The more you know about other cryptics, the more you'll be able to handle situations that come up. That's important for all of us. Knowledge is power and all that. What about you? I'm going to call the agency and have them check on that bridge occupant. The agency? Yeah, the Cryptic Management Agency. We kind of mentioned them yesterday, remember? Yesterday is a bit of a blur, to be honest. I just remember something about a registration office. It's part of the agency. Like I mentioned, there's actually a government organization dedicated to dealing with the paranormal. Excuse me. And they're the reason I couldn't go hide in my closet and pretend none of this happened. Excuse me again. Basically, yeah. So, some government agency handles things like bridge occupants? Well, yes and no. The Department of Paranormal Regulation is an umbrella organization for several smaller groups. But those are all federal groups. Locally, we get a management agency. A management agency. I guess you can think of them as being similar to local law enforcement. They have several departments that all basically try to keep the peace where cryptids are concerned. For the most part, they protect humans and try to keep cryptids from disrupting normal society. I see. I think this sounds hard. It can be. A lot of cryptics fit in with humans, but so many of them just don't. They're too alien, too wild. Some aren't even sentient. Anyway, the local agency has a department that handles this sort of thing, containment and control.
What?
And doesn't the club, you know, work with them or whatever? Yep, I do too, personally, part-time. But not everyone in the club does. Anyway, no need for you to worry about any of that. Right now, I want to show you something you're going to love. She stood and led me to a door at the back of the room. I followed behind much more closely. Federalism. Is this something that's going to freak me out? Yes, but in a good way, I promise. I watched her dubiously as she rapped 3 times, then pushed the door open. I peeked over her shoulder, wondering what exactly she thought I was going to love so much in what I had just assumed was a closet. What? Surprised? What? Yeah, I was surprised. There was a massive library of awesome hiding behind that door. Of course I am, but it's... How? This has to be some sort of space-bending alternate dimension craziness or something. It's something like that. She took my arm and pulled me into the library. My morning had just gotten about 1,000 times more awesome. Basically, Amber, just about anything is possible with magic. We can get to multiple places from the door in a club room, but from inside the library, that door will only lead back to the club. Is that why you knocked like that? Yeah, the different patterns and numbers of knocks determines where you end up. There's obviously a limit, so none of the patterns are too complex. Okay, this whole thing is weird and scary, and I'm not entirely sure I'm okay with any of it, but this part is so damn cool. Aw, is my little bookworm excited? Yes, she is. I thought you meant I should do reading at the school library or something. Allie laughed as she waved to a bookish man behind a dark wood desk. He immediately left off what he was doing and came toward us. He's hot. Amber, this is Vilos Ovino. He's one of the caretakers of this place, and he's also a wizard. It's nice to meet you. He really didn't look at all like a wizard, but he nodded politely. Girl, what do you think a wizard looks like? And what can I do for you? Vilos, this is Amber. I told you about her? Yes, the new member in the club, I recall. He had a fairly... Oh, accent. He has an accent! From Eastern Europe. North. What accents are from Eastern Europe? What accent do I have to give him? Help. Ooh, man with long hair. Yes, I love...
Okay, doing it back.
I don't think he's a love interest though, which is saddening. It's okay, I have William. North, help me! Russian!
What, I listened to your name. Yeah.
There are others!
Oh, it's foggy now. Did you hear that?
Well, there was kind of an incident this morning. He raised an eyebrow as he looked at us over the top of his glasses. I was just about to go contact the agency. Polish. In the meantime, I thought Amber could just stay here for a while. Maybe read up on various cryptics. Check. Since she's still kind of new to all this, I was thinking she could start with something basic and go from there. Just something to start getting herself educated, especially considering how close we are to Samhain. I don't think you know how to do this. You're right, I don't. I don't even know if I don't even think I can do Russian. Wait. Guys, this is gonna be so embarrassing. Yes, this is a dangerous time to just be coming into this world. Yes, this is a dangerous time to just be coming into this. I don't get... Vitals! Ah! Dangerous? What exactly is so dangerous? She said something about an increase in paranormal activity.
I know.
I'll try to explain it later. In the meantime, I'm sure we can... In the meantime, what the hell do Russians sound like? Mother Russia. In the meantime, I'm sure we can... I'm sure... Do they roll their R's? Guys. Hold on. I'm determined.
I don't know the trick.
I just need an example.
Bro, who can do
I just...
How you pronounce letters? We don't have
Letters.
idea.
Letters.
How about I get stoned and you get
Letters. That's all I got.
Put more efforts into that. Let's get a ride on this train.
Christ.
Normal.
Normal.
Next thing is
Normal.
You need to speak like Russians, just translating the same stuff in English. For example,
I'm just going. Slightly. You think slightly what? In the meantime, I'm sure we can locate some useful information for you if you'll follow me. Well, that wasn't at all foreboding and concerning. I wandered after him, still looking around at all the books. What about when class starts? I told you not to worry about that today. Just stay in here and read for a while. Vilo stepped behind his desk, shuffling around for something in a stack of papers. What sort of cryptic are you? I don't know. Sorry, we're still kind of fuzzy on that one. I see. Then what particular species would you like to research? If you're a beginner, I would recommend one of the more common species as a starting point. Many of them have subclasses you can delve into for further reading if you'd like. He slid a sheet of paper across the desktop toward me. Perhaps something on this list? Vampires!
Hey, there's the second trip.
Wait, oh, I could have learned about William. Hold on. Wait. Oh, I don't know what William is. Okay, vampires. Infected vampires. I decided to go with infected vampires. No real reason. It's not. No, the reason was because I love vampires. I was fairly certain I wasn't a vampire, but they were pretty classic. Yeah! And I wasn't ready to try to look into anything more intense than that just yet. It was hard to make educated choices when I was so new to all of this. I expected Vilos to direct me to the stack somewhere and let me find my own reading material. Instead, he let out an ear-piercing whistle, which I learned a few minutes later is apparently how one summons books in a magic library. It came whooshing out from between the bookshelves, straight to his outstretched hand. It was both slightly eerie and a little cool. He handed it over to me and I took it carefully, staring down at the leather-bound cover. Thanks. He'd already turned back to whatever he had been doing, so Ali led me to one of the nearby tables. Listen, I'm going to go contact the agency about that thing you saw earlier, but you're looking pretty pale there. I don't want to leave you here alone. I'll send someone to stay with you. So I get a babysitter? I really didn't want one, but I didn't want to be left alone in here either, and Violet didn't seem like much of a conversationalist. Not a babysitter, just company. I shouldn't be gone too long. Fine, just whatever you do, please don't send Mark. I can't handle his crabbiness right now. No, Mark. Got it. She shot me a grin and left through the same door where we'd come in. I flopped into a chair and set the book in front of me, just staring at the cover. I was trying so hard not to think about how weird this all was. It was kind of hard to avoid, though. I was sitting in a magic library run by a wizard, and I was reading about vampires. It was so weird. I just need to focus on the task at hand. If I really let myself think about all the things happening, I was just going to freak out again, and I didn't want a repeat of yesterday afternoon. I flipped the book open and leaned forward, eyeing the text.
What?
Infected vampires are vampires that were once human. Well, this already sounds like a completely riveting topic. Vampires infect humans by injecting a supernatural venom into their bloodstream at the time of biting them. This venom behaves similar to a virus, causing a series of physiological changes in the victim. Though depicted as crazed predators in fiction, most infected vampires actually have far less difficulty controlling their bloodlust than natural vampires. They usually attribute this to the fact that, as humans, they were expected to practice self-control in nearly all aspects of their lives. It is quite easy for them to carry this over into their new lives as vampires as well. Can I? Okay. Well, that was good news, I suppose. Vampirovirus 22. No crazed predators running around wanting to eat everyone. Then again, it did say most. Though they experience some of the natural vulnerabilities of vampires, such as weakness to sunlight, to a much lesser degree, infected vampires are also not gifted with the same level of enhancement to their senses and physical capabilities. The legendary regenerative abilities of vampires also manifest in a much weaker form. That said, even infected vampires are far superior to the average human being in almost all ways, including lifespan. Huh.
No.
Interesting. So I guess they were like watered down regular vampires? Still got the benefit of immortality though. That was a nice perk.
What was it called?
Oh!
We
she sent the person who I was reading about. I looked up thoughtfully and realized a familiar figure was standing across the table from me. So then that would have been, because it listed, what did it list? Whatever. It's Elliot. Oh, Elliot! I wasn't sure how long he'd been standing there, but when I noticed him, he gave me the usual sheepish grin and rubbed the back of his neck. Hey there, sorry to disturb you. You looked pretty intent on your studies there. No, it's fine. Have a seat. I was just reading about vampires. Infected ones. He looked startled. Any reason why you picked that topic in particular? I don't know, really. No reason. I guess it felt like they'd probably be pretty commonplace. It seemed like a good starting point. He laughed awkwardly and rubbed the back of his neck. Yeah, it would be pretty weird if you actually already knew one, right? From the little surreptitious looks he was giving me, I had a sinking feeling I did already know one.
Wait, what? Are you just...
Let me guess. You? He laughed again. How'd you know? Because you were being super obvious about it, you dork. He was really lucky that I liked his hair. Lucky guess? Still though, he was infected. That meant sometime in the past he was bitten by a vampire. I wondered what that had been like. I gave him a sidelong look. So, is it okay to ask, you know, how it happened? Is it private or something? I literally had no idea about etiquette in this situation. Why didn't they teach you impolite questions to ask a vampire? Someone needed to make a paranormal handbook for dummies. Nah, it's fine. It happened nearly 2 years ago. Honestly, it's not really an exciting story. I was just out late at a skate park with some friends, and I was walking home alone after dark. I was attacked by a mugger, I thought, but it wasn't a mugger. It, actually took quite a while to figure out exactly what had happened to me. Oh. Really? I mean, the cravings and stuff didn't give it away? He scratched his cheek and gave me that same grin. Well, I mean, I had cravings, yeah, but I didn't know for what. Blood wasn't exactly my go-to food for cravings, so I didn't really realize that's what I wanted. I just always kind of figured I wanted pizza or something. I started being sensitive to sun, but we thought there was some other medical cause. I was losing weight and we didn't know why. I started sleeping at weird times. We kind of thought I was sick or something, but didn't exactly expect vampirism. It was really hard not to laugh. I mean, it was kind of serious, but at the same time, really? I mean, he was kind of dense, wasn't he? How'd you finally figure it out? Well, it's kind of embarrassing, but I guess I started sleepwalking because of the blood cravings. I ended up in my stepsister's room trying to bite her. You bit your stepsister? Elliot held up his hands frantically. No. I mean, I guess I tried to, but she basically woke up, punched me in the face, and gave me a bloody nose. But that's how we noticed the fangs, and everything fell into place from there. So your family knows you're a vampire? Oh, yeah. I mean, it would have been really hard to keep that a secret after everything that happened. And they're fine with it? Elliot seemed to give this a lot of thought before he answered. Well, I guess they find it kind of annoying. I mean, we have to order blood capsules every month, and I kind of tend to stay up late at night. And discovering my shapeshifting abilities was awkward. But my stepdad put in a lot of time and research to figure out how best to handle it. That's actually why we ended up moving to Pine Hollow. If you heard a rumor, there was a strong paranormal community here and thought it would be good for me to be around other people like me. Oh man, that was super weird. His family must be insanely chill. Mine would freak out if I even hinted I wasn't a normal human being. That is totally crazy. I mean, in a cool way. He smiled hesitantly. You think so? Yeah, I mean, I can't imagine that kind of thing going over well with my family. Besides being a vampire, that means you're immortal and stuff, right? Well, yeah, I guess so. I'll keep aging into my 20s at least, since I'm just an infected. Mark probably only has another year before he stops aging. Mark's a vampire? Mark is a vampire? Yeah, natural though, no. Oh! Natural though, not like me. Actually, it kind of made sense. That must be why he radiated a superiority complex. It seemed like a very vampire-y kind of attitude to have. Aw, boo. So is he the one that... I motioned toward my neck. No, definitely not. I mean, it would be weird if it was a guy, right? I guess so. Would it? Did gender matter when vampires bit people?
Yeah, we can't.
Surely everyone's blood tasted the same.
Yeah, we're at A order.
Have you ever, you know, bitten someone? Nah, it was already illegal by the time I was infected. I mean, if someone's willing, but, you know, I didn't know, actually. And he sounded more than a little disappointed by not having bitten someone before. And don't you give me that hopeful look. You are not biting me, Mr. Vampire.
No, Ethan, get back on the ship.
Well, I mean... So, hey, I was wondering if, I could, you know... Oh my god, is he actually going to ask about that? I was wondering if I could have your number.
You know,
What?
we're so slow.
I mean, those of us in the club kind of share numbers, and besides, I don't sleep much, so if you ever need to talk late at night or something, you can always text me. If you want. Oh, yeah, sure. Thank goodness. Really? Why did he seem so surprised that I said yes? Sure, I'll probably need to get everyone else's too at some point. Yeah. Everyone else.
It'll work.
I pulled out my phone and handed it over so he could put in his contact details. Hey, can I ask you something else? I've kind of been wondering it for a while now. Excuse me. Huh? Sure. What exactly is a mozzie? Oh, don't ask about that. Please don't ask.
Let's try that.
Okay. It's just kind of embarrassing. Right. So, I'd be asking Allie about that later, for sure. There, I put in my number. He handed his phone over to me with the contact screen. I quickly put in my details. So, what kind of cryptic are you? I kind of guessed you weren't a normal human, but I wasn't sure. I stopped and looked up at him, surprised. You guessed? When? Well, I mean, when we first met, I kind of wondered about it, but it's not really something you can just ask someone. But how did you know? Well, vampires have a really good sense of smell. I blinked at him in confusion. You smelled me? It's not like I go around smelling people, it's just I can't turn off my sense of smell. That was true, I guess. And that explanation did make it seem a heck of a lot less weird. But still... So I smell different than a normal human? Your blood smells a little different. Yeah, it's kind of hard to describe. Different how? Well, I guess if normally humans are lasagna, then you'd be chicken Parmigiano? I mean, it's kind of similar, but not quite the same. What? My dad's Italian. That is not the problem. I see. Well, that's good to know. I couldn't decide if that was helpful or not. I had a sort of human-y smell, but sort of not human-y too. And apparently Elliot thought of me and everyone else in terms of food. Well then, sounds like an awful vampire pickle blind. Your blood smells different. Yeah. So I was thinking, Allie's probably back by now. Want to head back to the club room? Oh, sure, I'll just return the book. I'll do it. I mean, I don't mind doing it for you. Oh, Elliot. He stood quickly and grabbed the book before I could protest, returning it back to the front desk. He returned seconds later and walked with me back to the door. He pulled it open and waited for me to go inside. Allie was literally just walking in as we entered. Good timing. I was just coming back for you. How'd it go? It was fine. What about you guys? Well, we just talked. I see. Learned anything interesting? A few things, I think. We stood there silently for a minute. Elliot finally cleared his throat awkwardly and edged to the door. I guess I should, be going to class. I'll see you later, Amber? Yeah, see you. Okay. Well, bye then. Hey, thanks for staying with me. I appreciate it. Oh yeah, no problem. And remember, you can text me if you need anything. Anytime, okay? I'll remember that. He grinned and hurried out of the room and down the hall. Allie sprawled out on the sofa as if she was exhausted. So, we found your bridge, creep. I shuddered. What was it? A Spriggan. I don't think it meant any harm, but it's been gently relocated to a less populated area. You know, it said you're back to me. How did it know I was back? I mean, it was acting like it knew me. Allie shook her head and shrugged. Wild Fae said a lot of strange things. I wouldn't too much stock on anything it said, but... Wild Fae don't show themselves to just anyone. Even I can't see them if they want to hide. The fact that you could see it? Good grief, Allie. It cannot possibly get any weirder than it already has, so just say it. I think you should start researching more deeply into the Fae. The fact you could see the Spriggan so easily could mean that's where your heritage lies. The agency guys agreed. Well, at this point, that's no weirder than finding out I'm a vampire, and I've secretly been sneaking out for years to eat my neighbors. Or finding out you're a witch. Or anything else magical, mystical, and or weird. No doubt. So now what? Well, you can hide in the club and read all day, but I also got permission to take you home early. On what grounds? On the grounds that you have a very, very bad migraine. That isn't actually a lie. My head really does feel ready to explode. It gets easier. I promise it does. I hope so. Want me to take you home? Actually, yeah, that would be great. By the way, she stood and went to pick up something by the door. My bag! We found it hanging at the bottom of the bridge. I took it from her and checked inside. Everything seemed to be there. Maybe Brenna left it there after I, ran off screaming. Well, at least we were able to recover it. Allie led the way out to the hall while I fumbled around trying to text my idiot brother. Going home, bad headache, have permission. I doubted he'd respond. He never did. During the walk to the car, I did my best to look ill in case anyone stopped us. It wasn't completely an act. Now that the adrenaline was gone and I didn't have a weird conversation to distract me, I was actually feeling a bit woozy. Allie didn't really know much about the Fae in general, so on the way home, we mostly talked about the other club members. Well, she didn't go into all the details, just the basics. Elliot and Mark were both vampires. Elliot was infected a few years ago, but Mark was born that way. Danny was a werewolf, also infected a few years ago. Ewan was Fae, a Dullahan, basically a headless rider, hence the head coming off. William was an Esper, which was essentially a human with psychic powers. That's why things were falling out of my backpack. An Esper. Cool. Brenna was also some type of Fae. Vilos, Allie, and Corvin were all in the wizard category. There were several other members too, some from pretty much every category. A lot of them never showed up or participated. And, like she had said before, there were other staff members who were cryptids as well, including the school principal. It was just so weird. After Ellie dropped me off at home, I went straight to my room and crashed. I really, really hoped strange encounters like that morning weren't going to become the norm. But I was definitely going to be avoiding the bridge for a while. I didn't think I could stand another major incident. Not anytime soon, anyway. And given what Allie had hinted regarding the upcoming holiday, it seemed like it would be best to lay low for a while. Oh! Shoot, we're going down Elliot's route. I'm okay with that. Except we will be completing the game here. Because I need a break. Womp. Hello, friends. Hello, 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 hello. So that was the beginning of Changeling. Glad I picked this up because this is a fun game. This is like so in my alley. I love like fantasy and supernatural creatures and stuff. So having all of them, like beyond vampires and werewolves and stuff, like Esper, I love William. Guys, I love William so much. I really want to get to his path. I really want to figure out how to get down his path because he's so cute. But Elliot is also really sweet. Elliot, and he's a vampire. Mark is also a vampire, not an elf, but like, to hell with Mark, man. That guy's a dick. Anyways, that was a lot. I knew they were supernatural, but like, I didn't think it would just be so upfront like that. Where they were straight up like, yeah, welcome, we have a club dedicated to this. What the heck? Here. So, yeah, anyway, that was fun. Yeah, it was fun. I'm glad you had fun, North. Hi Miguel. Hi Hayes, what's up? Yeah, so this is definitely a game I will definitely be continuing on stream. I am so excited to play through the rest of it. I'm really excited to figure out what's really behind our history and what kind of cryptic we are. I love this game a lot. I love the story and the world building, the world that it's in. the fact that the teachers are cryptics too, and that it's just kind of like there's this whole secret federal. It's like it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing, and it's so cool. I love this stuff. This is just like my favorite, like fantasy races and like creatures and like the supernatural is so cool. It's so cool. It's my favorite thing. It's so fun. So I love this a lot. But it is 5 now. We have been streaming for 3 hours. That is crazy. Thank you, you guys, for sticking around and hanging out. We are gonna see if there's someone we can raid. Let me open my Twitch so I can see if there's someone I can raid. But for now, thank you so much for hanging out. If you popped in, if you are still here, if you're watching the VOD, if you're consuming this content in any way whatsoever, thank you so much for watching and hanging out and for being a viewer. I appreciate you very, very much, and I love you. Mwah! Oh my gosh, I hope you guys stick around for the next one. Make sure to join my Discord to be notified of the next time I stream. And let's see, Daydreamer Jan, Zuni is playing Apex, Monster Hunter Rise, BTMC is playing Overwatch. That's not Osu. Let's raid Henron, I think, because he is playing Monster Hunter Rise, and we did just hang out with a bunch of, you could say, monsters. So let me just pull this up. I'm going to go have fun at the mall. Thank you so much for hanging out. I will see you on the next stream. We may or may not play this game again, but either way, we are definitely going to get back to it sometime soon because this is a really fun game. It's my favorite. I think it's so great. Thank you so much for watching. I love you all so much. Goodbye. Mwah, mwah, mwah. Kisses. Bye. 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 Bye.